Chapter 2136. Lu Yin watched as Wang Xi's palm continued to advance. Although it had been weakened and suppressed, it had not been completely defeated. He was getting closer and closer to Wang Xi, and he could clearly see the hatred and killing intent in her eyes. He could also feel her crazy aura. "Thank you for giving me a perfect performance." Lu Yin smiled and suddenly stabbed out with the progenitor's sword in his right hand, distorting spacetime as it pierced Wang Xi's heart. Everyone was shocked. The progenitor's sword was a symbol that even Lu Bujing and the other Elysium sect leaders had never seen before, let alone used as a weapon. Lu Yin had once again created a precedent. He might be the first person to use this sword besides the progenitor's sword. Wang Xi's strength could not withstand a single blow, and she had no chance of resisting the progenitor's sword. Her supreme secret technique and the art of forgetfulness were useless against this sword. She lowered her head and looked at the sword that had pierced her heart. There was no pain, only disappearance. Starting from her heart, her body gradually disappeared from this world. Everyone stared blankly at this scene, their hands and feet turning cold. They could accept that Wang Xi had been killed and that her blood had dyed the stairway red, but they could not imagine that a person would mysteriously disappear. One sword could make a person disappear. What kind of power was this? Zhou Yao was very close, and when he saw this scene again, his face turned pale. Back then, the god of forgetfulness had only disappeared because he had grabbed the sword's hilt. The progenitor's sword could not be touched, and Lu Yin was the only one who could. The others felt their scalps go numb, especially Hen Exin. He stared at Lu Yin with unprecedented fear. No wonder he had stabbed the progenitor's sword here. This sword could actually make people disappear. Was it the power of the sword's edge or the entire sword? If it was the entire sword's power, then this person was too ruthless. Anyone who could not resist the temptation and tried to steal the sword would definitely die. For the first time, Hen Exin felt a chill from the bottom of his heart towards Lu Yin. Previously, Lu Yin had used Progenitor Chen's power to suppress the Fifth Mainland. Although Hen Exin had lowered his head, he had not been convinced. He had thought that he could regain control after breaking through to the progenitor realm. But at this moment he felt a chill run down his spine. How scheming was this youth? Would he let him break through to the progenitor realm so easily? Would he let him go? Hen Exin was not the only one. Zhu Yi also thought of this possibility. This person was indeed different from the Dao children of the Above Heaven sect. He was completely different. He was suited for this era. This era had created him. Even Hen Exin and Zhu Yi, who were half-martial ancestors, were shocked, let alone others. Wang Xi's body completely vanished, but before she vanished she continued to stare at Lu Yin with a venomous gaze. Lu Yin no longer cared about her. Her usefulness had come to an end, and some of the Lu family's vengeance had been avenged. The sword pointed to the sky, and a respectful voice rang out in his ears once more. "Walk on behalf of the heavens. Walk on behalf of the heavens. Walk on behalf of the heavens." At this moment, even the half-martial ancestors were looking at him with much more respect. Walking on behalf of the heavens was no joke. Lu Yin put down the primogenitor's sword and looked down at everyone. The Lu family had seen this scene many times, but this was the first time for Lu Yin. He was now a half-ancestor, and in the future he would make even progenitors look up to him. "I declare that the Above Heaven sect is officially established," Lu Yin announced. The fifth continent was in an uproar. At this moment human history had entered a new chapter. The Above Heaven sect was officially established, and the biggest beneficiary was naturally Lu Yin. He could officially walk on behalf of the heavens, and he could also command the other cultivators to a certain extent. This was not something that could only be achieved with the help of Progenitor Chen's strength. When his sword had disappeared from Wang Xi's body, it had truly been as if the primogenitor had personally arrived. Half-ancestor was the highest level of cultivation in the current era. The progenitor realm was too far away, and even the Sixth Mainland did not know exactly how strong the three ancestors were. They only knew that they were half-ancestors. Lu Yin's execution of Wang Xi had caused his prestige to reach a new peak. The Tianmen convention that was held a few days later went smoothly. Hen Exin and Zhu Yi barely spoke, and all of the Fifth Mainland's affairs were decided by Lu Yin. This time the Tianmen convention did not last long. Just as it was about to end, the second Night King reported, "Daoist, the Astral Beast Domain's commander Su Qing has sent a congratulatory gift." Lu Yin was surprised. He was not surprised that the astral beast domain had sent a congratulatory gift, but he was surprised that the person who had come was Zhou Xian. This was an old friend. "Invite him in," Lu Yin said. They were currently in the Above Heaven sect's main hall, and he sat on a side seat. On either side of him were the Above Heaven sect's law enforcers, and the 8 sect masters. The blood ancestor had already returned, and the main seat had been left for the non-existent Daoist. Zhou Xian was quickly brought in and his eyes were filled with shock. The human domain had truly changed. Ever since he had been born he had spent most of his time on the battlefield. Even when he had inherited the position of Void Thunderbeast, he had also been on the battlefield. He had spent most of his life fighting humans and he understood the human domain all too well. Even so, he had never imagined that the human domain would be united one day. This should have been impossible, but now it had become reality. A united human domain was too terrifying, and it was not something that the current astral beast domain could contend against. He could not help but look at the item in his hand, hoping that the Imperial Tutor's congratulatory gift would be able to protect the astral beast domain as he had said. Zhou Xian was led by the second Night King over the star staircase and arrived outside the main hall. He retracted the shock in his eyes, regained his composure and stepped inside. What greeted him were 14 half-progenitors. When the 14 half-progenitors looked over, Zhou Xian almost vomited blood. He had never dreamed that he would one day face 14 half-progenitors. These were half-progenitors and 14 of them at that. How many half-progenitors had there been in the entire history of the astral beast domain? On the surface, the astral beast domain only had one half-progenitor, which was the Yao Emperor. He had thought that he would be able to remain calm in front of the Above Heavens sect. But at this moment, under the gazes of 14 half-progenitors, even if he was the commander of the Celestial Beast Empire who had led countless lives and killed decisively, he could not erase the fear that came from his bones. This was not something that could be changed with status. A half-progenitor was the pinnacle of a living being's cultivation, and they looked at him like he was an ant. Fortunately, Zhou Xian often met the Yao Emperor, and he had to endure the Yao Emperor's pressure from time to time, which was why he did not embarrass himself. He walked step by step into the main hall, but his back was drenched in sweat. Lu Yin smiled as he watched Void Green approach him step by step. Every step seemed to be very difficult. The threat of the Eternals had been temporarily eliminated, and Lu Yin had been considering what to do next. Should the human domain develop internally and eliminate the hidden dangers, or should he shift the conflict? He had originally leaned toward the third option, which was to shift the conflict to the astral beast domain and initiate a war against them. The human domain could not remain passive forever, and he had said that he would one day lead Elder Lohar and the others into the astral beast domain. However, this decision had been disrupted by Wang Si. Senior brother Qing Ping was about to go to the astral tree domain to undergo his tribulation, and Lu Yin was considering whether or not to follow him and think of a way to rescue the people in the Red Garden. He was somewhat conflicted. Zhou Xian was already 10 meters away from Lu Yin and he slowly bowed. Commander Zhou Xian of the Celestial Beast Empire greets Daoist Lu of the Above Heavens sect. Congratulations, Daoist Lu. Hen Xen and the other half-progenitors looked at Zhou Xian curiously. They had been facing the Eternals ever since they had arrived in this era. Although they knew that the astral beast domain was a great enemy of the human domain, they had not paid much attention to it. During the 20 years that Lu Yin had disappeared, the astral beast domain had been very quiet. They had never taken the initiative to stir up trouble, so they had not come into contact with the astral beast domain. Now they had officially come into contact with them. The astral beast domain should be the remnants of the fourth mainland. Commander Zhou Xian, we meet again. Lu Yin smiled and acted like they were very close. Zhou Xian straightened up and looked at Lu Yin with admiration. Yes, we meet again. I thought that we would never see each other again. Lu Yin was surprised. Why do you say that? Zhou Xian replied, you disappeared for 20 years. If you hadn't died then with your strength, you shouldn't have been like this. Lu Yin laughed. That was an accident. I'm sorry to have worried you. Worried? Zhou Xian sighed as he was too disappointed. Without Lu Yin, how could the human domain be in such a state? Although they had not fought with the human domain in the past 20 years, they still understood the human domain very well. Countless years of infiltration were no joke. They knew about the conflict between the powerhouses of the Above Heavens era and the cultivators of this era. They also knew that the human domain's cultivation had gone downhill, and they also knew what Xian had done. They understood the human domain very well, which was why they did not plan to do anything. They did not help the Eternals or the humans, as they were certain that the human domain's cultivation would not improve because of those ancient powerhouses. No matter how widespread the cultivation of battle force or domains became, or how much death chi or fate cultivation techniques appeared, it was impossible for the human domain to return to the astral source era. The human domain was going downhill. At this time there was no need for them to take action. They could have just watched the human domain perish, or at a critical moment, they could have helped the human domain deal with the Eternals. However, Lu Yin had returned and the human domain had changed once again. Although Lu Yin still could not change the fact that the human domain's cultivation had regressed, he had changed the way the human domain interacted with each other. He had unified the above heavens, which was something that they did not want to see happen. Furthermore, the threat of the Eternals had disappeared, which was the most troublesome thing. The human domain had risen from a weak position to become the fifth mainland's ruler, all because of Lu Yin. If possible, Su Qing was willing to exchange his life for Lu Yin's. I've come under the orders of the Imperial Tutor and the Yao Emperor to bring gifts to congratulate the above heavens on the establishment of the above heavens sect and to congratulate the Daoist on his behalf. Su Qing then raised his hands, revealing a piece of paper. Lu Yin waved his hand and the paper floated over. He was very curious as to what the astral beast domain would bring. Su Qing's eyes flickered, as the Yao Emperor was worried that the above heavens sect would do something to the astral beast domain after the human domain was unified. After all, the human domain was now too powerful, and a dozen or so half-ancestors were enough to suppress the astral beast domain. The external threat of the Eternals had disappeared, and the technocracy was no longer a threat. The human domain's only opponent was the astral beast domain. The Yao Emperor was worried about this, but the Imperial Tutor had taken out this piece of paper to reassure him. Su Qing had wanted to open the paper countless times on his way here, but he had not dared to do so. He looked up at Lu Yin and Su Qing stared at him. The other half-ancestors also looked at Lu Yin, as they had also guessed that once the above heavens sect unified, the human domain's only enemy would be the astral beast domain. The astral beast domain would not be able to stop the above heavens sect. Logically speaking, even if the above heavens sect had brought a congratulatory gift, it should have been something very precious to win the favor of the above heavens sect and Lu Yin. How could there only be a piece of paper? Could it be a battle technique? Chapter 2137. Lu Yin opened the paper and looked down. His expression changed and he suddenly looked up at Su Qing. Su Qing's heart sank as Lu Yin's attitude had suddenly changed. It was obvious that he was furious. Lu Yin folded the paper and looked at Su Qing. "Commander, do you know what's recorded on this paper?" Su Qing hurriedly replied, "I don't know. The Imperial Tutor instructed me not to read it, so I won't." Lu Yin stored the paper in his cosmic ring. "Did this come from the Imperial Tutor?" Su Qing nodded. "That's right." Lu Yin retracted his gaze and pondered for a moment before looking at Su Qing again. "Tell the Imperial Tutor that I understand what it means, but..." Lu Yin's expression fell. "If this paper is burned, the person who wrote it will not have an easy time. See him out." The last sentence was clearly a threat and Su Qing grew even more curious. Lu Yin's attitude was both angry and helpless. What had the Imperial Tutor done? Despite his curiosity, Su Qing was still escorted out by Second Night King Wang Li. After Su Qing left, Kuei Luo could not help but ask, "Kid, what's going on? It seems like you're very unhappy." The other half-ancestors looked at him curiously as well. Lu Yin looked at Jiu Yao. "Back when the three upper gates were broken and the fifth mainland changed skies, your sixth mainland invaded my fifth mainland. Does Sect Master Jiu Yao remember this?" Jiu Yao's expression changed. What did he mean? Was he trying to settle scores? "I remember, but that was a very long time ago. What are you trying to say by bringing this up?" Jiu Yao asked, his expression ugly. The sixth mainland had been defeated during that invasion, and the martial ancestor had been severely injured. They had lost a lot of face. Lu Yin said, "The sixth mainland invaded the fifth mainland. Aside from the human domain, they also invaded the astral beast domain." Jiu Yao nodded. "That's right. The Black Blood Realm, Grand Martial Realm and War Martial Realm attacked the human domain, while the Blood Homage Realm and Stone Realm attacked the astral beast domain. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold and he tossed the paper to Zhou Yao. Zhou Yao looked over and his expression turned ugly. Kuei Luo grew anxious and snatched the paper. What's going on? Lu Yin frowned. The Absolute Path was the route that the 6th Mainland Stone Realm and Blood Homage Realm had used to attack the Astral Beast Domain. After the 6th Mainland had retreated, the Astral Beast Domain had taken control of the Absolute Path and had been defending it until now. Now Imperial Tutor Mending had told Lu Yin about the Absolute Path, which was tantamount to threatening him. If the Above Heavens sect tried anything against the Astral Beast Domain, they would open up the Absolute Path. It should be known that the 6th Mainland had long since been occupied by the Eternals. Perhaps the Eternals didn't know about the Absolute Path, but once the Astral Beast Domain opened that path, the Eternals would know about it and be lured in. The threat was no less than the crack in the Starfall Sea. I can't believe I forgot such an important thing, Elder Chan said helplessly as he passed the paper to Qing Ping. Lu Bujing looked at 9 luminaries. This is the 6th Mainland's business. Why didn't you tell us beforehand? The Medicine Immortal replied, the Absolute Path isn't an easy path to take and we discovered it by accident. After we retreated to the 6th Mainland, the Astral Beast Domain had the ability to completely seal it off. Later when the Eternals invaded we tried to open it but we failed. We thought that the path had disappeared forever, but the Astral Beast Domain didn't completely seal it off. It's also possible that they couldn't completely seal it off, Zhou Yao said. Can you guys find that path? I'll go seal it off, Ling Qing said. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Sect Master Ling Qing, you cultivate an astral source so you'll be at a disadvantage if you go to the Astral Beast Domain. You won't be able to deal with the Eternals if they open the Absolute Path. Ling Qing wanted to say something but Elder Chan interrupted her. That's right. The Astral Beast Domain's Yao Emperor is about as strong as Elysium's Sect Master. After all, he's a celestial beast and is famous throughout history. Now that we lack astral sources, not many of us are confident in defeating him. Lu Yin looked at Hen Exin. Sect Master Hen Exin, you should go. Hen Xian's expression changed as he had felt that Elder Chan's words weren't right. They lacked astral sources so they had to find someone who didn't need astral sources. There were only a few people present, but Lu Yin had directly called him out. Before he could refuse, Lu Yin continued, Sect Master's 3 ultimates are enough to suppress the Yao Emperor, but there's also that mysterious Skymender Imperial Tutor. If I'm not wrong, he should be a half-progenitor. He then looked at Jui. His death energy should be enough to deal with him. Sect Master Jui, you should go as well. Jui was stunned as well. It's just a beast that was once enslaved. Do you need me and Hen Exin to go together? Destiny Girl spoke up. The Eternals were ants that we didn't care about in the past, but now they're riding on our heads. If that's the case, why don't you go? Jui stared at Destiny Girl. Lu Yin replied, because I'm inviting both of you. That's enough. Jui looked at Lu Yin with a stern gaze and Lu Yin looked back at him. After looking at each other for a while, Hen Exin said, all right, we'll go take care of it. Qing Ping tossed the paper to Zhou Yao, who then marked the location. Sect Master Hen Exin, Sect Master Ju Yi, this is the first time that my Above the Heavens sect has taken action against an outsider. I hope that the 2 of you won't disappoint everyone as this concerns your reputation. You're facing the beasts from the 4th Mainland that were once enslaved, Kuei Luo said sarcastically. Hen Exin frowned but he wasn't stupid. The Astral Beast Domain had taken the initiative to threaten Jui, which meant that they were confident that they could control them. They could suppress the entire Astral Beast Domain, but when faced with unknown methods, strength might not be enough. This old man's words implied that he wanted to force them to deal with this matter properly. Old man, do I need you to tell me that? How can those enslaved beasts be a match for Sect Master Hen Exin and Sect Master Ju Yi? One of them is Ancient Path Master's proud successor, while the other is the Grim Reaper's disciple. They're much smarter and nobler than those beasts, Lu Bujing said. Kerr smiled. Don't compare those beasts to the 2 sect masters. How can they be compared? You're right. My apologies, Lu Bujing said with a smile. The few of them echoed each other, forcefully pushing Hen Xian and Ju Yi into a fight. However, Hen Exin had been in this era for 20 years, and he had experienced the 10-person bet which had refreshed his worldview. These people's words didn't affect him at all. If the Eternals can make a comeback, then these beasts might be able to as well. Don't blame us if they fail. With that, he turned and left the Above the Sky sect. This matter had to be resolved as soon as possible. Zhu Yi gave Lu Yin a deep look before leaving with Hen Exen. Kid, do you really believe that they can deal with it? Kuei Luo asked. Lu Yin shook his head. Skymander Imperial Tutor is said to be able to see through the past and the future. He's mysterious and unfathomable, so he won't be easy to deal with. They're just scouting ahead. The astral beast domain must have guessed that there will be a half-ancestor at the extremity. Seeing through the past and the future? Isn't that the same as destiny? Lu Bujing muttered to himself. Destiny's daughter looked at him with an unfriendly gaze. Lu Yin had seen it. Lu Bujing had said that ever since the third strand of ancestral qi had transformed into destiny, he had been driven mad by the Destiny's disciples. Destiny's daughter had been the most ruthless of them all, and it was all thanks to Lu Yin that the two of them were able to sit here peacefully. However, Lu Bujing felt guilty every time he faced Destiny's daughter. Similarly, looked at Destiny's daughter with an unfriendly gaze. She had always wanted to compete with Destiny's daughter in terms of looks, which was something that Lu Yin could not understand. Destiny's daughter could not be considered beautiful, and she even looked a little young. What was there to compete with? There had been grudges during the Daoist sex era, and there had naturally been grudges during the Above Heaven sex era as well. Senior Destiny's daughter, do you know if there were any astral beasts in the fourth mainland that could see through the past and the future? Lu Yin asked. Destiny's daughter shook her head. There weren't any in our era. Kuei Luo cackled. If even the Lu family can borrow the power of destiny, what else can't they do? Lu Bujing's face turned green when he heard this. Destiny's daughter glared at him once more. Lu Bujing glared back at Kuei Luo. Lu Yin was speechless as the old man's mouth was really cheap. He hurriedly interrupted. This Tianmen convention ends here. Elder Chan, Sect Master Qing Ping, please stay. Lu Bujing was the first to rush out. A white cloud appeared around Destiny's daughter and she left the main hall. Kerr grumbled, she's so pretty but she's still wrapped up. After the half-ancestors left, Lu Yin asked Elder Chan, Senior, what's up with the general appointment platform? Elder Chan was puzzled. What general appointment platform? Lu Yin pursed his lips. The one I borrowed from the Hall of Honor. Elder Chan was surprised. What do you know? Lu Yin was puzzled. I'm very curious. It was clearly left behind by my Lu family's ancestor, so why didn't Senior tell me? Elder Chan was astonished. How do you know? Don't worry about how I know. What's up with the general appointment platform? Lu Yin asked. Elder Chan sighed. Actually, many progenitors left behind power for the fifth mainland to protect it. The symbol progenitor and Hui progenitor's power was exhausted, and progenitor Chen's power was obtained by you. As for the Lu family's general appointment platform, I only know that it was left behind by Senior Lu Tianyi, but... He paused bitterly. It can't be used. Lu Yin did not understand. If the ancestor left behind the general appointment platform, why can't it be used? Elder Chan shook his head. To be honest, I don't know. Lu Yin's eyes widened. Didn't Ancestor Tianyi teach you how to use it? Elder Chan replied, Senior gave me some blood and said that I could use it to summon generals. I've used it since the very beginning, but it was useless. Otherwise, the symbol progenitor wouldn't have needed to carry the civilization to the sixth mainland. The blood is useless, Lu Yin said. He had already tried using his blood to water the general appointment platform after learning that it belonged to the Lu family, but there had been no reaction at all. That general appointment platform seems to have malfunctioned, and it hasn't been used for so many years. That's why we were willing to lend it to you. At that time I guessed that you might be related to the Lu family, but I never expected you to be a direct descendant. Lu Yin asked, Did Master Yuan know about it back then? Elder Chan replied, You borrowed it from Master Yuan, so how could he not know? Although he's only a cultivator with a power level of 1,000,000, his status in the Hall of Honor is no lower than Qing Ping's. He's someone worthy of respect and he knows many things. Lu Yin understood. No wonder the Hall of Honor wanted us to get the general appointment platform back when it was stolen. What if we couldn't get it back? Elder Chan's gaze turned cold. Then I would have had to take action. Chapter 2138. Lu Yin nodded. He knew the origins of the platform, but he didn't know how to use it. What was even more confusing was that the platform was an innate gift, so how could it materialize? Was it possible to use it just by reaching the progenitor realm? Then who did this platform belong to? Lu Yin believed that once it was used, it would be able to summon an extremely strong powerhouse. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been worth forefather Tianyi leaving it behind. But why was it useless? Alright, don't think too much about the platform. If it can't be used, then it can't be used. It's probably broken, so let's just wait for news from the astral beast domain. There can't be any problems with the absolute path, or it'll be another entrance to the Starfall Sea. You can borrow progenitor Chen's power, but you can't affect the astral beast domain. Lu Yin felt helpless. Progenitor Chen's power only covered the human domain, so he couldn't do anything to the astral beast domain. He was almost invincible in the human domain, but once he left he would be beaten back to his original state. How's the star source? Qingping asked. Lu Yin calculated. There's not enough time, so I can't get much. Qingping looked outside. I don't want to wait any longer. I have to go there as soon as possible. It's not a good thing to miss the best opportunity to break through. Go if you want, Elder Chan said. Just don't let anyone discover your identity. Lu Yin asked, through the place where I came from? He hadn't cared much about this before, but now his thoughts had changed. He wanted to go with his senior so that they could take care of each other and also find a way to bring Red Flower Garden and some people from the Alliance. The new sky corridor had been destroyed, and the four scales still didn't know what had happened. Once they found out, the remaining Lu family members would be the best way to threaten Lu Yin. Those from the above sky sect wouldn't do anything, but that didn't mean that the four scales wouldn't. Lu Yin had to ensure that he didn't have to worry about his own safety. When he thought about the crazy people in Red Flower Garden, Lu Yin panicked. There were also those from the Qiming family and the Alliance. When he had escaped, some of the remaining Lu family members had helped him. He didn't want to give up on these people. Elder Chan said, that source box array was left behind by progenitor Hui. When the Lu family led some people to move the mother tree and leave the fifth mainland, progenitor Hui left us a way out. If the astral tree, we can return to the fifth mainland. If the fifth, some people can also go to the astral tree. Can a lot of people go? Yin. Elder Chan glanced at Lu Yin's cosmic ring. Mount Supreme. Mount Supreme could ensure that the fifth mainland would be able to take away a portion of its people when they were in danger, but it had still been given to him. This meant that the Hall of Honor had valued him greatly at that time, or rather Elder Chan had valued him greatly. This was not only because he was invincible among his peers in the Sovereign Tournament, but also because of Mr. Mu. Senior brother, I'll go with you to the starry sky of trees. Both Elder Chan and Qingping were surprised. You're going? Lu Yin nodded. Of course. Very dangerous, Qingping said. Even Elder Chan hadn't expected Lu Yin to actually want to go. With progenitor Chen's power, Lu Yin could be considered invincible in the fifth mainland's human domain. Even if a progenitor from the four cardinal scales came, they might not be able to match progenitor Chen's power. Under such circumstances, Lu Yin still wanted to go to the astral tree domain. Once he was discovered, it wouldn't be as easy to escape as last time. Lu Yin felt helpless. I know it's dangerous, but there are some things that must be done. Don't worry, I have a way to prevent a half-ancestor from seeing through my identity as long as I don't run into a progenitor. In the past, Death Mask had not been able to fool a half-ancestor, but now with the new power in his heart, even half-ancestors couldn't see through him. This was something he had specially asked the Mist Ancestor to try. If even the Mist Ancestor couldn't see through him, Lu Yin didn't believe that a half-ancestor could be more powerful than her. Although the Mist Ancestor could only use the strength of a half-ancestor, she was still a progenitor who had been in the 9 mountains and 8 seas. Her eyesight and experience were not something an ordinary half-ancestor could compare to. When he thought of this, Lu Yin looked at Qingping. He was very curious about what Qingping had said before. Once he broke through to half-ancestor, he would be invincible. He was even more confident than Lu Yin himself. You can go if you want, but I'll wait for you for a month at most. We'll meet in the Neoverse in a month, Qingping said before leaving. Elder Chan fell into deep thought, wondering if he should go with them. There wasn't much to explore in the fifth mainland, but the astral tree domain was different. Perhaps they could go. Since they had decided to go, there were some things that needed to be prepared, such as interrogating the expeditionary army. Lu Yin hadn't paid much attention to them before and had only locked them up. Aside from half-ancestors and Lu Jing, he hadn't thought much about the others, but things were different now. The first person he thought of was Elder Green Apricot. After all, the Hidden Earth Society's influence in the astral tree domain wasn't low. There was also Wang Su, who hadn't participated in the competition for the position of Dao disciple. Wang Su was one of the 4 young ancestors of the astral tree domain and was much more powerful than Wang Yi. Even Wang Yi had participated in the competition for the position of Dao disciple, but she hadn't. Lu Yin was curious. There were also Xia Shenfei and Long Tian who hadn't come to the 5th mainland. Since he wanted to go to the astral tree domain, he needed a reasonable identity that couldn't attract the attention of the 4 cardinal scales, but also had to be qualified enough to attract their attention. Lu Yin couldn't think of a suitable identity, so he could only rely on these people. This was especially true for Elder Green Apricot. The Hidden Earth Society should be able to provide a candidate. But if he went to the astral tree domain, what would happen to Hen Xian and Jui? If those 2 stayed on the 5th mainland and no one restrained them, it would be troublesome if something happened. However, he couldn't act against them just because of his misgivings. After all, they were both Elysium sect masters, and the consequences of killing them would be unbearable. Lu Yin didn't think that he was a bloodthirsty person, so he couldn't act against some random people just because of a guess. Most importantly, the technocracy's star essence hadn't arrived yet, so he had to hurry them up. There was no way he could miss out on that resource. Dao disciple, your subordinate requests an audience, the second Night King's voice rang out. Lu Yin looked over. Come in. The second Night King entered the main hall and respectfully raised his hand, revealing a wireless gu. Su Qing gave this to me before he requested an audience. He told me to give it to Dao disciple alone. Lu Yin's eyes flashed and he accepted it. All right, you may leave. The second Night King hurriedly left, as his attitude towards Lu Yin was completely different from before. In the past he had been forced to submit to Lu Yin because of the sealed cage technique. In reality, he would not hesitate to attack Lu Yin if he had the chance. For example, in Clover World, King Yi had revealed the second Night King's true intentions, telling Lu Yin that the second Night King had willingly allowed himself to be trapped for such a long time and allowed King Yi to attack him. After the expeditionary army had appeared in the astral tree domain, the second Night King had sought refuge with the Bai family of the frozen Immortal sect. This was because the Bai family's control over the sealed cage technique was stronger, but also because the Bai family's strength far exceeded his own. Lu Yin didn't. Now he had personally witnessed Lu Yin kill Wang Xi without the help of anyone else. Even if Wang Xi's inner world had been destroyed, she was still not someone that a cultivator with 3 origin tribulations could deal with. The second Night King's respect for Lu Yin was ingrained in his bones. The Day-Night clan had originally been slaves of the frozen Immortal sect's Bai family. People like Zhou Day-Night, who had been born in an era before the frozen Immortal sect, were fundamentally different from people like the second Night King. The second Night King submitted easily because he had been a slave since he was young. He opened the wireless gu and quickly connected to the other side. Alliance Master Lu, long time no see. I'm Bu Tian. Lu Yin wasn't surprised. Long time no see, Imperial Tutor Bu Tian. I've heard of your great name many times. I've heard of Alliance Master Lu's great name many times as well, the Imperial Tutor said in a relaxed tone that carried a hint of a smile. Lu Yin's lips curled up. That's my honor. What's my ranking on the Celestial Vanquishers list? Alliance Master Lu must be joking. Your human domain also has a list of people that you must kill for the Astral Beast domain. Am I on it? Is there a Yao Emperor? The Imperial Tutor laughed. Lu Yin smiled as well. You think too highly of me, Imperial Tutor. You're actually comparing me to a senior like you. Alliance Master Lu, you're a smart person. You should have guessed why I contacted you. The Imperial Tutor changed the topic and didn't waste any more words. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. It's not that easy to guess. Please enlighten me. In the Astral Beast domain, Imperial Tutor Bu Tian's gaze was calm. The human domain has rebuilt the heavenly sect, and the threat of the Eternals is no longer there. The technocracy's truth has been revealed as well. Our next target should be the East. The East naturally referred to the Astral Beast domain. That was indeed what Lu Yin had been thinking. That's right. Imperial Tutor Bu Tian continued. Alliance Master Lu, Did you see the congratulatory gift that my celestial beast empire gave you? Lu Yin replied, it's the absolute path, so it doesn't matter. If we can defeat the Eternals once, we can do it again. The threat of the Eternals and the threat of the Eternals are two different concepts. I know that Alliance Master Lu has grasped the power left behind by Progenitor Qin and is invincible in the human domain, but it's ineffective against the astral beast domain. Once the absolute path is opened, countless Eternals will enter the astral beast domain, and the threat to you will be different. Lu Yin asked, is the Imperial Tutor trying to explain the congratulatory gift to me because you don't think it's clear enough? Of course not. I'm old and I want stability. The Heavenly Sect has more than 10 half-ancestors, and if they want to attack the astral beast domain, we won't be able to resist. That's why I'm asking for peace. Lu Yin was astonished as he hadn't expected the Imperial Tutor to directly say that he was asking for peace. The moment he said that, the Imperial Tutor's position in the negotiation changed. With the threat of the absolute path, why is the Imperial Tutor asking for peace? Lu Yin was puzzled. Imperial Tutor Butian sighed. Actually, we don't want to deal with the Eternals either. Otherwise, how could the human domain withstand the combined attacks of the Eternals and the astral beast domain in the 20 years that Alliance Master Lu disappeared? This was the case in the past and it will be the same in the future. Unless absolutely necessary, we don't want to open the absolute path and lead the Eternals into the fifth mainland, unless someone forces us to. Of course, under this premise, Alliance Master Lu can raise any requests you have. I believe that several half-ancestors have already entered the astral beast domain and are approaching the absolute path. Alliance Master Lu, I don't mind telling you that the absolute path is very fragile, but it's also very well hidden. The sixth mainland can't find the entrance, but once we destroy it, the entrance to the sixth mainland will immediately appear. Our astral beast domain can't deal with multiple half-ancestors, but destroying the absolute path is not a problem. Chapter 2139. Lu Yin frowned. If you're confident in controlling the extremity, then why are you negotiating with me? This was a contradiction, as if he was purposely putting himself at a disadvantage. Skyminder Imperial Tutor was solemn. It's simple. I want to be friends with Alliance Leader Lu. Lu Yin was stunned, but then he laughed. You must be joking, Imperial Tutor. The astral beast domain and the human domain have been at war for countless years, and there are countless casualties. There's no way to resolve the conflict, so how can we be friends? Even if we're on different sides, we can still be friends. For example, if Alliance Leader Lu wants to know something, I can tell you. I don't ask for anything else, but I hope that Alliance Leader Lu can protect me in my later years. I don't have much longer to live, and while I'm alive, I hope that everything will remain the same. After I die, the human domain and the astral beast domain are none of my concern, Skyminder Imperial Tutor said with a bleak tone. If Lu Yin had not fused with the Yin Guai, he might have believed Skyminder Imperial Tutor's words after seeing him gather so many human-shaped source boxes. After all, the astral beast domain was at an absolute disadvantage, and there was no way for them to make a comeback. But now Lu Yin sneered. He did not understand what the Celestial Beast Empire was planning, nor did he understand Skyminder's goal. However, those human-shaped source boxes were definitely not simple. Even if he did not attack the astral beast domain, he still had to attack that place. Right, he had almost forgotten that he had to attack that place. Does Imperial Tutor know what this junior wants to know? Lu Yin was curious. Skyminder Imperial Tutor replied, after countless years of war, the astral beast domain and the human domain both understand each other very well. Alliance Leader Lu is the most brilliant human in the past 40 years, and we don't dare to let our guard down for even a moment. From what I know, Alliance Leader Lu is collecting fates and has connections with the human domain Starsible sect, right? Lu Yin's eyes went wide. Imperial Tutor knows about fates and? More accurately, I have some understanding of destiny, Skyminder Imperial Tutor replied. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed, but he did not speak. Destiny was a heavy topic and it was too mysterious. Lu Yin was wary of anyone who was related to destiny, such as the Starsible sect and Fate Daughter. Fate Daughter in particular, who supported him unconditionally. She seemed harmless, but Lu Yin was more wary of her than anyone else, even more so than Henzin Jui's. If Heng Xin Jui and the other half-martial ancestors gave him pressure in terms of cultivation, it was no longer a problem after he obtained Progenitor Chen's power. However, Destiny Girl was different. No one knew what she was thinking. She had been able to find Big Sis, the ancestor of the Netherworld, as well as the Starsibyl sect. She had also been able to make third Uncle Lu Bujing fear her. This woman was the one who had hidden herself the most deeply. He would rather face 3 or 4 people like Hen Exen than one Lady of Fate, even if Lady of Fate was on his side. Alliance Master Lu, do you know a lot about fate? Imperial Advisor Bu Tian asked. Lu Yin replied, feel free to say whatever you want, State Tutor. Imperial Preceptor Skymander's tone was solemn. The Celestial Beast Empire inherited the Fourth Mainland's legacy. When the Fourth Mainland was destroyed, the remnant land that we protected was connected to the Fifth Mainland and became the Fifth Mainland's astral beast domain. We were lucky enough to preserve some ancient records, including some about fate. Destiny was a woman, and her real name has long been lost. She was one of the oldest progenitors and was as famous as the Grim Reaper and Wu Tian. She was also known as the Three Realms during the era of the Above Heaven sect. She was considered one of the progenitor's direct disciples, and she was the first batch of cultivators taught by the progenitor. Each of them created their own unique cultivation civilizations. Destiny's legacy is known as the Law of Destiny. It allows one to see the past and the future as well as their own aura. Based on the person's experiences, they created a total of 108 grains of fates, and, along with the Xiantian Mirror and the Book of Destiny. These are the inheritances of the Law of Destiny. Lu Yin knew that there were 108 grains of fates, and as Xianjiu had said that he had confirmed that the Starsibyl sect was related to destiny. Otherwise, Xianjiu would not have known the exact number of grains of fates, and the minor Thousand Flow Zone had 108 ring-shaped tributaries, 108 houses on Starsibyl, and 108 profound servants who served the Starsibyl sect. All of these things corresponded to the fates, and however, Lu Yin did not know about the Xiantian Mirror or the Book of Destiny. The more fates you obtain, the closer you are to destiny. I know that Destiny's daughter unconditionally supports you, Alliance Master Lu, but I must warn you not to trust her too much. The ancient records state that being close to destiny is not a good thing, Skymander Imperial Tutor reminded him. Lu Yin asked, Imperial Tutor, you claim to be able to see the past and the future, and you understand destiny so well. May I ask, what is your relationship with destiny? Skymander Imperial Tutor paused. I have no intention of hiding anything from Alliance Master Lu. I am indeed related to destiny. Lu Yin's gaze trembled. I accidentally obtained the Book of Destiny, Skymander Imperial Tutor said. Lu Yin was puzzled. What Book of Destiny? Skymander Imperial Tutor replied, I will tell you everything I know, Alliance Master Lu. I hope that Alliance Master Lu will not make things too difficult for my astral beast domain. He then continued, the so-called Book of Destiny is one of the 3 wondrous books written by destiny. It is a treasure of destiny, and in the eyes of many, its value is limitless. This is because the 3 books represent the past, present, and future. The book in my hand represents the present, so to a certain extent I know some things. Lu Yin was confused. There was such a treasure? When he had first learned about the Starsibyl sect, he had not believed them at all. He had thought that they were scammers, but after many things had happened, especially when he had come into contact with the Grim Reaper and the Legends of Destiny, he had slowly begun to believe them. Now, even if Skymander Imperial Tutor had said something about the Book of Destiny, there was nothing unbelievable about it. However, he still felt that it was unreal. A treasure that allowed one to see the past, present, and future was even more mystical than the progenitor's sword. If time was a type of power, then what was this? I know that Alliance Master Lu does not believe me, but I have no reason to lie to you. I also know that Alliance Master Lu has been searching for someone all this time, Undying Yushan. Lu Yin's finger twitched. Can you find out where he is? Skymander Imperial Tutor replied, although the Book of Destiny is mystical, it is not omnipotent. It requires destiny to activate it, and I can only activate it very occasionally. So you don't know? I do. Lu Yin raised a brow. Where's he? Skymander Imperial Tutor replied, in the solar system, but I can't find his exact location. Lu Yin frowned. How do you expect me to believe you? Skymander Imperial Tutor replied, I'm telling you these things without asking for anything in return. Does Alliance Master Lu have any reason to doubt me? Lu Yin's eyes flashed. You just mentioned the reverse Xiantian mirror. What do you mean? The Xiantian mirror is considered a basic tool for cultivating destiny. Most of the disciples of destiny cultivate the reverse Xiantian mirror, including the Star Sibyl sect. I'm guessing that they cultivate the reverse Xiantian mirror as well. As for the reverse Xiantian mirror, according to the ancient records, destiny has never passed it down to anyone. The Lady of Destiny also cultivates the reverse Xiantian mirror? That should be the case. The Lady of Destiny is the successor of Destiny. Aren't you afraid that I'll tell her that you have the Book of Destiny? That's my own fault. If Alliance Master Lu really trusts the Lady of Destiny, then why did you talk to me for so long? Lu Yin was amused. These people all thought that they were smart. He definitely would not tell the Lady of Destiny now, but when he reached a bottleneck and could no longer see through it, he would have to use extreme methods to break through, such as having the Lady of Destiny cause trouble for Skyminder. Actually, I don't really believe what you're saying, Lu Yin said. The Imperial Tutor sighed. Normal people might not believe it easily, but Alliance Master Lu is not an ordinary person. You might not know any less than I do. Lu Yin muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "Help me divine a word, a person and an item. If you're accurate, then I'll believe you." The Imperial Tutor smiled. "I've already expressed my sincerity. Regardless of whether Alliance Master Lu believes me or not, this is the truth. If this still does not dispel Alliance Master Lu's desire to kill my astral beast domain, then there's nothing I can do. I said that if you divine a word, a person and an item for me, then you'll be even more sincere. I'm sorry, Alliance Master Lu, but I can't agree. Why? You have the Book of Destiny, so it won't be difficult for you. Besides, I didn't ask for time. A word, a person and an item. Why don't you ask the Lady of Destiny? She must have refused because Alliance Master Lu's divinations are not simple. I still want to live for 2 more years." Lu Yin was speechless. These fellows were extremely shrewd in this aspect. The Lady of Destiny was unwilling and Skyminder was unwilling as well. The Star Sibyl sect and Xianxia had both vomited blood. Was it really that difficult for him to divine something? "If you're not willing, then you can lend me the Book of Destiny. I'll do it myself," Lu Yin said. The Imperial Tutor smiled. "After I die, I can give the Book of Destiny to Alliance Master Lu as a gift, but not now." Lu Yin was astonished. "You're really willing to give it to me? Why not? No one in the Astral Beast domain can use it. Alliance Master Lu has collected fates and has the ability to manipulate fate. Perhaps you can use it." "What does the Book of Destiny look like?" Lu Yin asked. "A very large book," the Imperial Tutor replied. A very large book. Why did he feel like he had seen it somewhere before? Lu Yin thought about it and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Xiaoshi, yes, Xiaoshi. That book had no words, but its contents could be read. "You said that you have 3 books of destiny. Where are the other 2? Lin Feng asked. Lu Yin asked without batting an eyelid. The Imperial Tutor sighed. "I don't know. I can't find them." Not long after, Lu Yin put down the wireless goo and contacted Senior Qing Ping, asking him to bring Xiaoshi over. No, Lu Yin thought about it and decided to go by himself. But before that, he contacted the Lady of Destiny. "You cultivate the Xiantian mirror, right?" Lu Yin asked directly. The Lady of Destiny replied, "Yes, you asked me that last time." "Reverse the Xiantian mirror?" Lu Yin asked again. The Lady of Destiny was curious. "How did you know? Don't tell me that Lu Bujing told you." Many people know about the Xiantian mirror, but not many know that it has a positive and negative side. Even the Destiny disciples don't know much about it. "I don't want to hear lies." Lu Yin ended the call. If he didn't want to hear lies, then he wouldn't say anything. Chapter 2140. Elsewhere, a white cloud floated in space. It couldn't be seen from the outside, but within the cloud, Destiny Girl was stunned. This was the first time someone had ended a call without warning. This was too much. Destiny Girl stared at the wireless goo in a daze for a long time. Lu Yin didn't even consider Destiny Girl's feelings. He had asked the Fog Ancestor to bring him to the Neoverse to find Xiaoshi and take a look at his book. In the Neoverse, the ruins of original Boundary Mountain had been turned into a plain. Although there was no Boundary Mountain, the Hall of Honor's cultivators had set up a beautiful scene with stars hanging in the sky. There were also many great worlds here, but there was no Boundary Mountain. Lu Yin was led here by the Fog Ancestor. He only greeted Senior Qing Ping and found Xiaoshi, but he didn't meet anyone else. This concerned the Book of Destiny, and if Xiaoxi's book was real, then it definitely couldn't be exposed. At this moment, Xiaoxi was sitting in a corner of the Hall of Honor's library. There were books scattered all around him and his entire body was buried in them. He even had his largest book on his head as he shook his head and muttered to himself. There was no one around him and he was muttering to himself. Not just anyone could enter the Hall of Honor's library, and it was very large. Some people could only look at the first floor but not the second. However, Xiaoxi could look at everything. He was currently sitting in the corner on the top floor of the library. He only liked to read here without being disturbed. Lu Yin appeared beside Xiaoxi and looked at him quietly. The fog ancestor stood beside Lu Yin and stared at Xiaoxi in shock. What kind of hairstyle is this? Her face twitched and she returned to the mirror. This hairstyle made her want to beat someone up. What kind of person would have such a hairstyle? What are you looking at? Lu Yin crouched down and asked. Xiaoxi didn't even notice that there was someone beside him. History. What kind of history? Lost history. Which era? The Tao. Xiaoxi suddenly stopped and slowly turned around. When he saw Lu Yin face to face, his expression changed. He was frightened and his face went pale as he stared at Lu Yin with his mouth agape. Lu Yin blinked. Am I that scary? Xiaoxi stared at Lu Yin and pushed up his glasses. Your brother Lu? Lu Yin smiled and nodded. Xiaoxi swallowed his saliva and his face turned even paler. He slowly retreated and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Lu, big brother Lu, why are you looking for me? I wasn't thinking about you. Lu Yin was puzzled. What's wrong? Xiaoxi trembled. Big brother Lu, I'm not the one who killed you. Why are you looking for me? Go find someone else. I'm scared. When he saw Xiaoxi's terrified expression, he suddenly realized something. You thought I was dead? Speaking of which, how long has it been since you went out? Where to? Xiaoxi's voice trembled. Outside the library, Lu Yin said. Xiaoxi was at a loss. It's been a long time. About a year. Lu Yin was speechless. Xiaoxi blinked and looked at the messy books around him. Not just that. I'm not dead. I came back a year ago. Don't be afraid. Little Shi's eyes widened. He didn't die. Didn't everyone say you were dead? Don't lie to me. I'm scared. Really. Don't look for me, okay? Look for Elder Chan, the head judge. Alright, look for Xiaoqi too. He's been wanting you to cut his mushroom hair. Lu Yin laughed strangely. Didn't you ask me to cut this mushroom hair? He thought of it first. Xiaoxi was about to cry. Lu Yin suddenly placed a hand on his shoulder, causing Xiaoxi to freeze. Alright, I'm really not dead. Don't be afraid. I met Elder Chan and the rest a long time ago. Xiaoxi stared at Lu Yin blankly. You're really not dead? You want me to die? Lu Yin glared at him. Xiaoxi exhaled and patted his chest. He looked at Lu Yin reproachfully. You scared me to death. Big brother Lu, why didn't you make a sound when you walked? I wasn't walking. Lu Yin rolled his eyes. His gaze was attracted by the huge book on Xiaoxi's head. It was half a meter thick and only Xiaoxi could see the words in it. Big brother Lu, didn't they say you were dead? And it's been 20 years. Why haven't you appeared? Xiaoxi was puzzled. Lu Yin replied, I went into seclusion. Alright, don't ask any more questions. I need to talk to you about something. What is it? Xiaoxi did not understand and he took the book off his head and held it tightly. Lu Yin pointed at the book. Open this book and let me take a look. Xiaoxi was puzzled and did as he was told. Big brother Lu, I thought you couldn't see the words? Lu Yin was about to speak when the wireless goo in his pocket moved. He took it out and saw that it was Xianxia. We've reached the path of despair, but there's no way to control it. The space here is too weak and even an explorer can tear it apart. Once we do, it might expose the path to the sixth mainland and attract the Eternals. Xianxia sent a message helplessly. No matter how powerful he was, this was not something that could be done with his cultivation unless he could freeze the void like Mr. Mu. He could do that, but the astral beast domain must have been prepared. They had observed these cultivators from the above heaven era for 20 years, so how could they not understand them? Otherwise, Imperial Tutor Skymander would not have been so confident that he could threaten Lu Yin. I know. Let's wait there for now, Lu Yin replied. Xianxia paused but he could only reply, okay. Lu Yin put down the wireless goo and asked under Xiaoshir's puzzled gaze, "Can't anyone else see the words?" Xiaoshir shook his head. "No one else can see it besides me, but it doesn't matter. The head referee believes me and so does Senior Chan. He even told me to come to the library when I'm free and not to stay cooped up in the History Research Institute all day." Xiaoshir then opened the book. Lu Yin looked at it and sure enough it was blank. He still could not see anything. He was puzzled. "Xiaoshir, what technique did you cultivate?" Xiaoshir blinked. "The martial enlightenment technique." Lu Yin was surprised. "The same as Master Yuan's?" Xiaoshir nodded and clenched his fists in excitement. "Master Yuan is the teacher of many people and I want to learn the martial enlightenment technique like him." However, he soon became dejected. "It's a pity that it's the same no matter how hard I try. I don't have the talent for cultivation." "Have you learned the Xiantian mirror before?" Lu Yin asked. Xiaoshir shook his head and suddenly exclaimed, "There are words in the book." Lu Yin looked at it but it was blank. "The Xiantian mirror is a cultivation technique for fate. There are pros and cons and it's one of the keys to prying into the river of fate," Xiaoshir read out. Lu Yin hurriedly said, "Check on fate. I want to know everything about fate." Xiaoshir grunted and lowered his head. He suddenly shrieked and fell over while clutching his head. Lu Yin was shocked and hurriedly supported Xiaoshir. "Xiaoshir, what's wrong?" Xiaoshir seemed to be in great pain. Brother Lu, my head's about to split open." Lu Yin hurriedly closed the book and blamed himself for being too rash. If this book really was the Book of Fate, then the consequences of using it to investigate fate would be unimaginable. How could a book written by fate pry into itself? After a while, Xiaoshir recovered and asked curiously, "What's going on? I've never been like this before." Xiaoshir muttered to himself, "Am I sick? What's growing in my head? Oh, I have to check." He then opened the book again. Lu Yin took a look and relaxed when he saw that there was nothing wrong with Xiaoshir. 1, 2, 3. Many diseases occur in the brain. What's wrong with me? Xiaoshir studied the book intently. Lu Yin laughed and closed the book. He met Xiaoshir's puzzled gaze and asked seriously, "Xiaoshir, where did you get this book?" "I found it in the History Research Institute." The first time Lu Yin had met Xiaoshir, he had also answered in the same way. "It's not your innate gift or anything like that." Xiaoshir shook his head. "Senior Chan, even the head judge asked me about it. It really isn't my innate gift. I found it in the History Research Institute and there are records of it. This book has been in there for many, many years and it's always been in the corner of a table. I flipped through it out of curiosity and there's a lot of knowledge in it." Lu Yin looked at the book that was half a meter thick. He wasn't sure if this was the Book of Fate or not. Since ancient times, humans had lived for countless years and given birth to countless wondrous items. The Book of Fate might not be the only book-type item. "Xiaoshir, do you want to come with me to the Above Heaven sect?" Lu Yin asked. He wanted to take Xiaoshir with him. If he could confirm that this book was the Book of Fate, then things would be different even though he didn't know how to use it. Xiaoshir shook his head. "I still want to stay here. There's the library, the History Research Institute and Xiaoqi here. I don't want to leave." Lu Yin sighed. "All right," he took out a wireless goo and gave it to Xiaoshir. "Contact me if there's anything. Also, promise me something." Xiaoshir put the goo away. "Brother Lu, what is it?" "Don't tell anyone about this book. Remember, anyone, especially anyone you don't know." Women," Lu Yin reminded him. "With Destiny's daughter's abilities she might be able to find Xiaoshir." Xiaoshir nodded but he was still confused. "Women." He licked his lips, feeling both expectant and apprehensive. "Women? How do I find a woman? None of the women here are willing to talk to me. They all look down on me." "That's right," Lu Yin wanted to say. With his hairstyle and temperament he didn't look like someone who could ask a woman out. Lu Yin patted Xiaoshir's shoulder and encouraged him. "Don't worry, it's just not time yet. I believe that in the near future there will be a girl waiting for you. She'll appreciate your knowledge and your kindness." He paused and then added against his will, "She'll worship your hairstyle." Xiaoshir's eyes lit up and he became excited. "Really? Will there really be one? Will there really be a woman who can understand the romance of our mushroom hairstyle?" "Definitely," Lu Yin said with certainty. Xiaoshir nodded heavily. "Thank you, Brother Lu. I wanted to change my hairstyle and Xiaoqi was discouraged, but your words ignited our passion. Brother Lu, you're the best." Lu Yin was stunned. He seemed to have done something wrong. Chapter 2141. There were many things that he wanted to investigate through this book, but after what had just happened to Xiaoshi, Lu Yin suppressed his curiosity and decided to wait for a while. The things that he wanted to investigate were not simple, and he was afraid that Xiaoshi's head would explode if he did it again. He took a step forward and left the library. A group of people walked over. They were all young people and the one in the lead was Xu Jing. Xu Jing and the rest were surprised to see Lu Yin suddenly appear in front of them. They were stunned for a moment before bowing in unison. "Greetings, Dao disciple." "Greetings, Dao disciple." Lu Yin grunted and scanned the crowd. Shi Shuang was next to Xu Jing, and these people should be the elites of the Hall of Honor's younger generation. However, even in the past the only one who could compete with Lu Yin was Feng Yu, and these people were too far away from Lu Yin's level. "You still can't find Xianxia?" Lu Yin asked. Xu Jing replied, "He's trapped in Burial Garden and we can't find any traces of it." Lu Yin nodded and left. He couldn't find any traces of Burial Garden either, which was strange. He could borrow the power of Progenitor Qin and Sirius Qin to see through the Fifth Mainland, but he just couldn't find Burial Garden. Shi Shuang had a complicated expression as she watched Lu Yin leave. Every time this person appeared he would bring about changes. This time he had become a Dao disciple of the Heaven's Path, who was on the same level as a half-ancestor. The difference between them was too great. "Brother Jing, is that Dao disciple Lu Yin? Did you guys compete with each other before?" a person asked. She looked very young and was a lively girl. Someone else said, "I heard that Dao disciple Lu Yin once unified the inner verse and outer verse, but he disappeared for 20 years. He reappeared 20 years later and became a Dao disciple, which is equivalent to unifying the entire human domain. He's amazing. How great would it be if we had a tenth of a Dao disciple's power?" Xu Jing said, "Don't bite off more than you can chew." "A tenth? If you really have a tenth of Lu Yin's power, you'll be able to compete for the position of Dao disciple." Amongst the crowd, a girl looked in the direction that Lu Yin had disappeared. It was him, not bad. Lu Yin originally did not want to stay in the glory realm for long, as he still had many things to take care of in the Heaven's Path. There was nothing worth staying in the glory realm for long, but he had suddenly thought of something and needed his senior's help. The Lockbreaker Society was incorporated into the back garden, and the Starlink Network Company was connected to the entire Human Domains network. The former board of directors was also disbanded. Since the Hall of Honor could not control the human domain, there was no need for the Board of Governors to exist. However, although these directors had lost their status, they were still supported by the Hall of Honor. After all, the Hall of Honor still ruled over the Glory World. They could make decisions about the Glory World. Ever since Lu Yin had become a Dao disciple of the Above Heavens sect, he had tried to contact Lu Yin countless times. He wanted to rely on Lu Yin to enter the Above Heavens sect. Currently, the Above Heavens sect was the true ruler of the human race, but Lu Yin had never spoken to him. There were some people and some things that they didn't have to use, but they had to be reserved. For example, Elder San Liang, Elder San Shang, Xian Jiao, these outdated directors, Xia Xing, the illegitimate son of the Xia family, Zhou Xian, and Amu, a member of the Umbral Butterfly clan. He was one of his own people. Even now, Chong and Qi didn't know about the Umbral Butterfly clan. Lu Yin didn't necessarily need to use them, but their existence was absolutely necessary. Once they were used, they would be able to unleash miraculous effects. The Judgment World had been destroyed by the 7 heavenly gods, but the Hall of Honor had more than one great world. They had the World Alliance to create, sell and recycle them. The world. The current Judgment World wasn't much different from the previous one, aside from the fact that it lacked a murderous aura. Senior Qing Ping had replaced Elder Chan in managing the Glory World, which was a bit hasty and untimely. If something happened to Qing Ping during his tribulation in the Astral Tree realm, Elder Chan would still have to return to the Glory World. Senior brother, after so many years, the human domain must have planted some people in the Astral Beast domain. "I need to use them," Lu Yin said. Qing Ping replied, "We have some of our own people. How are you going to use them?" There was no need to hide anything at this point, so Lu Yin told him about Skymander's collection of human-shaped source boxes and his visit to the statue. Qing Ping was shocked. "How did you know?" "I borrowed Progenitor Chen's power to see through the stars of Sirius." Lu Yin had long since thought of an excuse. It was perfect and no one could prove whether it was true or false. Qing Ping sighed. Progenitor Chen's power clearly can't affect the astral beast domain, but he can still see through the astral beast domain. He really is a powerful progenitor. Qing Ping sighed and then handed a list to Lu Yin. This has a list of all the people and astral beasts that can help you. If Skyminder is hiding that place very well, then this is the only one that can help you. He pointed at the name in the middle of the list. Lu Yin looked over. Harvest. That's its code name. Its true identity is a Yin Guai, and it's an emissary of the astral beasts second only to the leader. Qing Ping's tone was calm, but his words shocked Lu Yin. Yin Guai? And second only to the leader? Qing Ping looked at Lu Yin. Are you surprised? For many years, the human domain has been trying to infiltrate the astral beast domain, so it's normal for us to have such a spy. Similarly, the human domain definitely has higher-ups from the astral beast domain as well. It's just that we don't know about them. Lu Yin couldn't help but laugh. His thinking had been limited. If the humans could rely on the everlasting race in the astral beast domain, then why couldn't the astral beasts rely on the humans? He had previously wondered if there were any human spies among the everlasting race, but a Yin Guai spy wasn't anything to be surprised about. Second only to the leader? This Yin Guai has been developing for a long time, right? Lu Yin asked. Qing Ping replied, that's Elder Chan's business, so I don't know. I only received this list recently, and the most valuable and well-hidden one is the Yin Guai. If there's anyone who can find that place, then it would be the Yin Guai. How do we contact it? Lu Yin asked. Qing Ping replied, we can't contact it unless it's absolutely necessary. That's why its method of communication is rather complicated, and it'll take some time to contact it. Senior, this matter is very important. We don't know anything about the origins of humanoid source boxes or their significance. When I traveled through spacetime, I saw the fourth mainland crumble and I saw countless humanoid source boxes. The astral beast domain is also collecting humanoid source boxes. This matter isn't simple, Lu Yin said. Qing Ping looked to the east. We've been fighting against the everlasting race for the past 20 years, but we've also been keeping an eye on the astral beast domain. The more they don't act, the more uneasy we feel. Humans believe that they're very intelligent, but astral beasts can sometimes be just as intelligent as humans. Lu Yin agreed. Skyminder Imperial Tutor's intelligence was extremely high. Humans weren't necessarily the strongest race in the universe. There were many strange life forms that had the ability to threaten humans, but they had all disappeared over the course of time. The only reason humans could survive was because they were united. Lu Yin hadn't killed Ni Huang and the others because he had considered this point. It wasn't that he was being merciful, but rather that he couldn't allow such a thing to happen. Once an internal conflict spiraled out of control, it would be a disaster for the entire human race. Humans were humans because they had a bottom line. Lu Yin left the Glory Realm and returned to the Above the Sky sect. While waiting for the star essence from the technocracy and news from the Astral Beast domain, he went to see Elder Green Apricot. Lu Yin met Elder Green Apricot at the peak of a mountain in the Above the Sky sect. There were over 100 mountain peaks in the Above the Sky sect, and each peak was large enough to support a planet. They were all built to mimic the scale of the Above the Sky sect. Of course, this was only an imitation. With the resources and time available in this era, the real Above the Sky sect could not be built. Even so, this Above the Sky sect's construction was still shocking. Elder Green Apricot didn't know what to say as he stared at Lu Yin's back. Elder Green Apricot, do you still remember the first time we met? Lu Yin asked, his tone calm. Elder Green Apricot replied, in the central plain at the White Dragon clan's ancestral home. You were called Long Seven. Lu Yin smiled. Yes, the world is unpredictable. Elder, did you ever think that you would one day become my prisoner? Elder Green Apricot was bitter. If I had known earlier back then. He paused. Lu Yin turned around. What happened then? Elder Green Apricot shook his head. What's the point of thinking about it? How do you plan to deal with me? Please speak frankly. Lu Yin gestured for him to sit down. There was a pavilion nearby, and a stream flowed along the peak of the mountain. Clouds and mist swirled about, and it was very beautiful. Sit down and talk. Elder Green Apricot was surprised, but he did not refuse. The worst outcome was death. They already knew what had happened to Wang Xi, and they knew how ruthless this person was. Lu Yin waved a hand and Zhao Ran happily walked over with a cup of flower tea. Elder Green Apricot stared blankly at the flower tea in front of him. Was this poison? There were 2 cups of flower tea on the stone table that looked particularly strange. They were dark red and there seemed to be something swimming within them. Was that something swimming? Lu Yin's eyelids twitched and he couldn't help but look at Zhao Ran. This flower tea was becoming more and more strange. Elder Green Apricot looked at the flower tea in front of her in a daze, and then looked at the one in front of Lu Yin. Was this poison? Was this necessary? If Lu Yin wanted him dead, there was no need for him to use poison. A single palm strike would have been enough, and there was a cup in front of him as well. What was the meaning of this? Elder Green Apricot looked at Lu Yin in confusion. Lu Yin subconsciously used the Codex of Ian to observe the tea, but there was nothing strange about it. He knew that Zhao Ran would not harm him, but there were not many people who dared to drink this tea. It was just like Coco's needle. Even though they knew that it could be used to treat their illness, not many dared to try it. Elder, try it. Lu Yin smiled at Elder Green Apricot. Elder Green Apricot gulped and looked at Lu Yin, but then at Zhao Ran, who had an expectant look on her face. What was that look in her eyes? It was as if she wanted him to be poisoned to death. After staring at the tea for a while, Elder Green Apricot made up his mind. Daoist, there's something I want to say. There's no rush. Drink it first, Lu Yin said. How could he say anything after drinking it? Elder Green Apricot's expression turned ugly. Although he did not know what the 2 cups of flower tea meant, he was certain that drinking it would not end well. Daoist, I'm actually from this region. Lu Yin was not surprised. There's no rush, Elder. Zhao Ran worked hard to make this flower tea. Drink it first, it's very delicious. Elder Green Apricot's face twitched. Why aren't you drinking it? Chapter 2142. You don't believe me? Actually, I'm from the Hidden Earth Society and Earth is my hometown. I went to the Cosmic Tree Realm through Jupiter and joined the frigid Immortal sect by chance. I'm not really from the Cosmic Tree Realm, which is why I didn't dare to resist when Yuchen ordered me to do things on behalf of the junior ancestor. I was afraid of being discovered. Lu Yin understood why Elder Green Apricot was so obedient to Yuchen. Even if Yuchen represented by Xiaohong, she was still just a maid, so how could she order an emissary around? This old man must have felt guilty and didn't dare to resist. Yuchen had naturally become more and more comfortable with him, and she had even assumed that he was afraid of Bai Xiaohong. Are you Gu Yuchen's Yudai? Lu Yin asked. Elder Green Apricot nodded. Yudai was trained by Yuchen to gather information and she has Bai Xiaohong behind her. She knows a lot about the Cosmic Tree Realm, and if I'm targeted by Yudai, I might not be able to keep my secret. The Hidden Earth Society's biggest taboo is to offend such people. If I'm exposed, the Hidden Earth Society will be in trouble. That's why I have to listen to their orders most of the time. Lu Yin nodded. Okay, I understand. The tea is getting cold, Elder, please drink. Elder Green Apricot's expression changed. You still don't believe me? I can contact the Hidden Earth Society. Your group has been in the 5th mainland for more than 20 years, right? During this time, has the Elder not contacted the Hidden Earth clan? Lu Yin asked. Elder Green Apricot replied, We can contact them, but there's no need to. Lu Yin looked up and saw the awkward expression on the Elder's face. He knew what the Elder was thinking. After being in the Cosmic Tree Realm for so many years, Lu Yin's perspective and thoughts had changed. He didn't care about the Hidden Earth Society at all, and he didn't plan on contacting them. Unless someone from the 5th mainland went to the Cosmic Tree Realm and made some achievements, they would be qualified to contact the Hidden Earth Society. In the end, the Hidden Earth Society of the 5th mainland was different from that of the Cosmic Tree Realm. There was also the risk of being exposed if they contacted the Hidden Earth Society of the Cosmic Tree Realm. In addition, the Cosmic Tree Realm's expeditionary force was in the Neoverse Trium Gate, so it wasn't easy to contact them. Elder Green Apricot's attitude made it clear to Lu Yin that he was leaning towards the first possibility, as they looked down on the 5th mainland's hidden earth. Elder, have some tea, Lu Yin said in a lower tone. Elder Qingxing's heart sank. Was she still unable to escape? Your Highness, the tea is getting cold, Zhao Ran reminded him as she looked at him expectantly. Lu Yin coughed, picked up the teacup and observed it once more. Drinking something like this required courage. Elder Green Apricot was stunned. Dao child, you're drinking as well? Zhao Ran's flower tea is delicious, he replied seriously. He took a sip and found that it was refreshing and tasty. His brain felt as if it had been cleansed by ice water. His eyes lit up. Not bad. Zhao Ran happily said, I'll go make another cup for your highness. She then left. Elder Xianxia licked her lips and forced herself to take a sip. It was as if she was going to her execution ground. Then her eyes widened. It tastes pretty good. Lu Yin smiled. As long as Elder likes it. Elder Green Apricot sensed his body, but there was no poison and he was completely fine. On the contrary, his mind had become even clearer. He looked at Lu Yin in astonishment. Daozi, what's going on? Lu Yin replied, it's unique. Elder Xianxia replied with an "oh" as she stared at the tea in her cup. Most people would not be able to accept such a unique characteristic. Elder, you should know Lei Wu, Lu Yin suddenly said, mentioning a name that caused Elder Xianxia's expression to change. Elder Xianxia stared at Lu Yin in disbelief. Daozi, you? How would I know? Lu Yin smiled at him. Elder Xianxia was shocked. You know Lei Wu? You already knew that I was from Earth Invisibility? Lu Yin's lips curled up and he put down his teacup. Lu Xiaoga, Lei Wu, Humble Schools, Kai Shu and Lei of Roots. Am I right? Elder Xianxia looked at Lu Yin's smiling face and felt that he was unfathomable for the first time. No matter how monstrous or powerful Lu Yin's previous performance was, even when he had killed Wang Si, it hadn't shocked him as much. Earth concealment was a secret that only he and Lu Xiaoga knew about in the expedition army. Did Lu Xiaoga tell you? Elder Xianxia asked. Lu Yin laughed. Does Lu Xiaoga know about Kai Shu? Kai Shu was the eldest disciple of the Humble School's half-ancestor Clear Dust. She had interacted with Lu Yin and protected him. When Lu Yin had merged with Elder Xianxia's body and found out that Kai Shu was also from Earth Invisibility, he had also been shocked. Elder Xianxia thought about it and realized that he had never told Lu Xiaoga about Kai Shu. Kai Shu was an important figure in the organization and a half-ancestor's disciple. She was one of the few people with the highest status, so how could she have told others so easily? If it wasn't Lu Xiaoga, then how did Lu Yin know? Did Kai Shu tell you herself? Elder Xianxia asked, but even he felt that it was laughable. How could that be possible? Lu Yin had indeed interacted with Kai Shu and Clear Dust for quite some time, but Kai Shu couldn't have known about Lu Yin's identity at that time. How could she have told him about Earth Invisibility? Lu Yin replied, Elder, don't try to guess how I found out. I called you here to ask for Earth Invisibility's help. I'm going to the Cosmic Tree. Elder Xianxia was shocked. Is the Shinkong corridor connected? Lu Yin replied, even if it's not connected, I can still go. Jupiter? That's right, you went there through Jupiter, Elder Xianxia said. Lu Yin didn't elaborate on this point. Elder, I need information on all of the Earth Invisibility in the Cosmic Tree. I believe that you can help me with this. Elder Xianxia frowned and remained silent. Lu Yin tapped his finger on the table. From your perspective, Earth Invisibility's influence is great, but that's only in the dark. As long as you can find a single point, you can lead them all. Lei Wu, Kai Shu, Lei, do you think that I can get some information from them? Especially Kai Shu. Don't forget that I was almost taken in as a disciple by Patriarch Wuxia. To the people of the Cosmic Tree, I'm a trader of the abandoned lands and a member of the Lu family that the Four Cardinal Scales wants to deal with. But to Kai Shu, I'm an earthling who's close to Earth Invisibility and at odds with the Four Cardinal Scales. She'll help me, right? Elder Xianxia was troubled. Since you're so sure, why don't you just look for Kai Shu? Then what's the point of keeping you around? Lu Yin barked, scaring Elder Xianxia so much that his face paled. Lu Yin's sudden change in attitude had caught him completely off guard. Lu Yin lowered his voice. Wang Si, if I say I'll kill you, then I'll kill you. You should know how valuable a half-ancestor is to humans, and even they are like this. Do you think that you're more valuable than a half-ancestor? Do you think that I won't kill you? Elder Xianxia's expression turned ugly. Lu Yin's attitude had been so good that he had forgotten that this person was someone who had killed a half-ancestor in front of everyone. He exhaled as he looked at the strange flower tea. What do you want? I'll listen to you. Lu Yin nodded and his expression softened. That's right. You're from Earth and it's half my home. It's where I started my cultivation, so I won't harm Earth Invisibility. Elder Green Apricot felt helpless as he was afraid that Lu Yin would be exposed in the Cosmic Tree realm. If that happened, then Earth invisibility would be implicated as well. But with the information that Lu Yin currently possessed, even without Elder Green Apricot, Earth invisibility would not be able to remain unscathed. Elder, with our current relationship, it's unlikely that you'll betray me even after we reach the cosmic tree realm. However, I can't take the risk, so I need to take some precautions. Elder Xianxia was stunned. The cosmic tree realm? I have to go as well? Lu Yin smiled and suddenly raised a hand. Black and white mist appeared on his palm, transforming into a brand that pierced through Elder Xianxia's body and into his astral origin cyclone. Elder Xianxia could not react in time, and by the time he did, it was already too late. He suddenly stood up. Fuzzy. Lu Yin raised a hand. Don't be surprised, it's just a small trick. As long as you don't betray me, it won't be a problem. However, his expression grew serious as he continued, if you betray me or do something against my will, I'm sure you won't want to try this. Elder Xianxia sensed the astral origin cyclone within his body. Over the past 20 years, more than half of his astral origin had been consumed, and there was no way to replenish it. There was also a black and white imprint within that could not be dispelled no matter what he did. This was the power of the Grim Reaper, and it was too difficult to recognize. Elder Xianxia had seen Lu Yin use the Grim Reaper transformation before. This person was becoming more and more terrifying. Even without the Grim Reaper transformation, he could still use this power. Rather than learning how to contact Earth invisibility in the cosmic tree realm, it was better to bring Elder Xianxia along. He would be useful at a critical moment. There's one more thing. Lu Yin looked at Elder Xianxia. If I want to hide my identity and enter the cosmic tree realm, I need a suitable position that won't attract the attention of the 4 cardinal scales, but I also need to be qualified enough to attract their attention. Elder, do you have any good candidates? Elder Xianxia took a deep breath. Since he was being controlled, he could only think of a way to help Lu Yin. Otherwise, if something happened to Lu Yin, he would not have an easy time either. Let me think about it. There should be a suitable candidate. Elder, you can take your time to think about it, Lu Yin said before putting Elder Xianxia into Mount Supreme. Besides Xianxia, Lu Yin still had to think about who else to bring. The Fog Ancestor would definitely go to the Cosmic Tree Realm, and he would not give the mirror to anyone else. The most important thing right now was to find a candidate for a half-ancestor. Senior Qingping was going to break through, so who else could go besides him? If he wanted to save Red Flower Garden, there had to be at least a few half-ancestors in the alliance. However, having too many half-ancestors would not work either, as it would easily attract the attention of progenitors. Lu Yin had a headache. He thought about it for a few days but still could not come up with a solution. A few days later, Astral 10 arrived outside the solar system. He did not receive any star essence from the technocracy, nor did he receive a reply from Yin Guai from the Astral Beast domain. Instead, Astral 10 arrived. He was the one who had called Astral 10 over. Not only Astral 10, but he had also gathered all of the Astral Combat Academies into the Above Heaven sect. He had also taken out the 5th pagoda and made the Above Heaven sect a place of inheritance, not just a sect that was ruled over. The reappearance of the 5th pagoda caused an uproar in the human domain. This time, not only could the 5th mainland enter, but cultivators from the 6th mainland could as well. Of course, they had to pay a heavy price, as many of the 6th mainland's cultivation techniques and inheritances had to be sent to the 5th pagoda. Lu Yin also repaid the debt of being half a teacher to them. Chapter 2143. Half a teacher? In the main hall of the sect, Lu Bujing 9 luminaries Leng Qing and Kair were present. Fate Girl and Qingping were not present, while Hen Exin and Ju Yi were still in the Astral Beast domain. Lu Yin replied, "That's right, I owe you half a master. I was the one who created the 5th tower. Right, it should be renamed to the Tower of Inheritance now. I've placed almost all of the inheritances inside, and I've even called upon the cultivators from the 5th and 6th mainlands to place their inheritances inside as well. I owe you half a master, so that shouldn't be too much, right?" 9 lights stared at Lu Yin in a daze. Not too much. How could this be? This was simply too much. This 5th, no, the inheritance in the inheritance tower did not belong to him alone. What right did he have to receive half a master's grace? Lu Yin wanted to refuse, but when he looked around he saw that Lu Bujing, Leng Qing and Kai were all in agreement. Fate's daughter would probably agree as well, and there was no need to mention Qingping, who was a die-hard supporter of Lu Yin. Even if Xianxia and Zhou Yi were here, the three of them would not be able to object. Furthermore, he looked at Lu Yin. Even if all 8 sect masters were to oppose him, would it be of any use? Lu Yin looked at Jiu Yao and smiled. What? Does the leader of the 9 luminaries sect have something to say? After all, you represent the 6th mainland. Perhaps you can ask the blood ancestor for his opinion. Even if Lu Yin didn't say anything, he would have already discussed this with the blood ancestor. Although the Above the Sky sect now consisted of 2 continents, they were still 2 separate continents. Their past grudges could not be set aside so easily. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Yin controlled the Sirius star's power and could control their life and death, the blood ancestor would have actually wanted to leave the Above the Sky sect. However, once they left and the 2 continents went to war, they would be in trouble. They wouldn't be much better off than the astral beast domain. All sorts of thoughts flashed through his mind. 9 Lights was a little confused for a moment. Lu Yin did not mind. In fact, aside from the benefits that Lu Yin had gained from being half a master, there was also another reason for his actions, which was to deal with the 6th mainland. The internal conflicts of the human race could not be easily resolved, and he was not so magnanimous as to give up on his prejudice against the 6th mainland. The cultivators of the 6th mainland could enter the inheritance tower to cultivate, but he could not ignore the fact that he had been half a teacher to them. The choice was in their hands. As for the 5th mainland, when it had still been the 5th pagoda of the cosmic sea, Lu Yin had already owed him half a master. If it hadn't been for Xia Ji and the others' objections, the 5th mainland wouldn't have cared too much. Lu Yin's reputation in the 5th mainland was simply too high. At the end of the day, the 6th mainland owed them a debt of gratitude. If they wanted to, they could enter, but if they didn't want to, it was up to them. Jiu Yao replied, I need to go back and discuss this with the blood ancestor. Lu Yin nodded. Of course, but Senior is in seclusion due to his injuries, so it's best not to disturb him if possible. If you feel that you can't accept the kindness of being half a teacher, you can choose not to enter. No one will force you. 9 luminaries nodded as he understood this logic. Lu Yin was not using this method to force the 6th mainland to do anything. The 5th pagoda's inheritance had to be passed down, but now that the 2 mainlands had joined forces, they could not directly exclude the 6th mainland. Lu Yin could only use this method to allow the 6th mainland to make its own choice. If they agreed, they would be able to enter, but they would have to acknowledge that Lu Yin was half a master to them. If they didn't agree, then it was up to them. The 9 luminaries could not help but look at Lu Yin. This person's ability to scheme and influence was not something that the 9 luminaries could compare to. The 9 luminaries thought back to 20 years ago when the Great Eastern Alliance had taken over the war against the Astral Beast domain. In the end, the Great Eastern Alliance had managed to take over a weave in the Outerverse Eastern region. The 9 luminaries had no choice but to admit that they were far from being able to compare to this person when it came to scheming. This wasn't something that Lu Yin had thought of on his own, but rather something that Wang Wen had reminded him of. Otherwise, Lu Yin would have forgotten that Wang Wen was half a teacher to him. Fortunately, Wang Wen reminded him in time. How are Xianxia and Jue? The 9 luminaries asked, changing the topic. Lu Yin shrugged. They're still monitoring the absolute path. It hasn't been resolved yet, but there's no rush. I believe that with the strength of these 2 seniors, they'll be able to deal with it properly. The 9 luminaries did not say anything else. The absolute path was a hidden danger, and they could not allow themselves to be controlled by the astral beast domain. They needed to be monitored by a half-step ancestor, and Lu Yin naturally felt that the best candidates were Xian and Jue. As for how long they would need to monitor the absolute path, Lu Yin had no idea. Not long after, Lu Yin arrived outside the solar system and looked at Astral 10 in the distance. Senior, was there an Astral Combat Academy in your era? Lu Yin asked. The mist ancestor appeared and looked at Astral 10 in front of him with surprise. Isn't this the Unbounded? Lu Yin's eyes twitched. Senior, you know about it? The mist ancestor nodded with a respectful expression. 10 ancient warships that carry the legacy of human civilization. The leading ship is the Unbounded, but I remember that these 10 ships were destroyed during the war. They should have been rebuilt. Actually, those 10 battleships shouldn't have appeared on the battlefield. When I first became a cultivator, I heard that those 10 battleships had been destroyed many times and rebuilt many times. Back in my time, cultivators weren't allowed to get close to those battleships, said Lin Feng. Senior, you've never entered the Unbounded? Lu Yin was astonished. The Mist Ancestor replied, I have. When I became an emissary, I remember that there was a library there that recorded bits and pieces of human civilization. There was a floor called the Stargazing Deck where you could see some images. Some of the images were very ancient while others were related to you. My name should be on the Unbounded. Senior, your name should be there. Lu Yin did not understand. If the Unbounded had not been an astral combat academy in that era, then how had it left its name? The Mist Ancestor's gaze deepened. Passing down the flames of human civilization requires not only cultivation, but also history and spirit. Humans cannot forget history and we represent it. I Xia Shang, Old Fu Huiwen, Ku Jia Wang Fan by Wang Yuan, and Senior Lu Tianyi have all been recorded in the Unbounded. Bearing the weight of humanity is a responsibility. Let's go take a look. Responsibility? Lu Yin recalled what the crazy headmaster had said. He had been told to leave his name on the Unbounded and become a guest mentor. The Rainmaster had also said that he could only leave his name on the Unbounded after he became an emissary and recognized the Unbounded. Leaving one's name on the Unbounded was not simple. It was like a ceremony. There were many students in Astral 10 now, so Lu Yin did not attract too much attention. Under the Mist Ancestor's instructions, he greeted the Rainmaster and the others before heading to the burned area. It was the cabin that had once housed Astral 10's library. The crazy headmaster had set it on fire, and the fire had not been extinguished even now. It was here that Lu Yin and Xia Luo had worked together to scheme against Xia Jiuyou, allowing Xia Luo to become the Xia family's heir. The Mist Ancestor was surprised. What does this fire mean? Why won't it be extinguished? I don't know, but it's been burning for a very long time. The Mist Ancestor shook her head and pointed the way. After many twists and turns, Lu Yin finally arrived at the edge of a burning area. Lu Yin looked over and saw that they were out of Astral 10. Was this the front of the warship? Where's the name? The Mist Ancestor looked around, but she could not find the name she was looking for. Lu Yin couldn't find it either. At that moment, the Rainmaster arrived. What are you looking for? He looked past Lu Yin and at the Mist Ancestor. Just like Lu Yin and the others, he subconsciously lowered his head. That formless aura was inexplicable, but it was there. Lu Yin coughed and the Mist Ancestor disappeared. The Rainmaster returned to normal, but he was still a bit confused. Lu Yin, who was that? A half-ancestor senior, Lu Yin replied. The Rainmaster understood. No wonder I couldn't look straight at him. Lu Yin asked, Mentor, is there a place where names are recorded here? The guest mentor's name? The Rainmaster asked before nodding. Yes, you're qualified to leave your name here. I don't know if it's the guest mentor's name, but Progenitor Qin and Progenitor Hui's names are recorded here. The Rainmaster was astonished. How do you know? Then it's not the guest mentor's name, but... He paused. Did that senior tell you? Yes, that senior has been around for a long time, even longer than Elder Chan. He knows about Limitless, Lu Yin said. The Rainmaster was confused. Although he knew about Limitless, his own strength was limited, so he couldn't understand Elder Chan. He didn't even know how long Elder Chan had lived. Follow me, the Rainmaster said before heading off in another direction. Lu Yin followed him through the sea of fire and the lake that had burned for many years. Along the way they saw a few students looking for something, but the Rainmaster casually tossed them away. Not long after, they arrived at a building that had been burned to ruins. It was obvious that this building had once been glorious and occupied a large area. Unfortunately, it was now a wasteland. There was a thud as a piece of wood fell to the ground, stirring up dust and sparks. With the Rainmaster in front, they walked through the ruins until they reached a corner. There were quite a few wooden planks piled up in the corner, and Lu Yin felt a sense of déjà vu when he saw them. The Mist Ancestor appeared at that moment and walked over to the planks, looking at them with a complicated expression. Lu Yin walked over and looked at the planks. The topmost plank had half a word carved into it. It was a language from the Mist Ancestor's era, but Lu Yin didn't recognize it. Senior, what's this? Half of the word, when as in Hui Wen, the Mist Ancestor said in a low voice. Ancestor Hui's name? Lu Yin was shocked. The Rainmaster looked deeply at the Mist Ancestor. Senior actually recognizes this language. Not bad, every name here represents a period of history. Anyone who can leave their name behind in Limitless is the mark of an era. We will never be qualified to leave our names here. At most we can leave our names as guest mentors. Lu Yin lifted the plank and saw that only half of it was left. Lu, if it's not Senior Lu Tianyi, then it's Uncle Lu Feng, the mist ancestor said. Lu Yin looked deeply at the words on the planks and then lifted his head again to look at them one by one. He heard names after names, and not only were there progenitors but there were also some half-ancestors. The mist ancestor recognized many of the names, but she didn't recognize most of them. Some of the names were from before she was born, while others were from after. Lu Yin saw Elder Chan's name, Senior Qingping's name, Supreme Sage Heavenly Master Elder Gong, and the others. In this era, half-ancestors were already the pinnacle, and their names were enough to leave their names behind in Limitless. However, they had all been burned down by the crazy headmaster, and the vicissitudes of life were similar to those of the Daoist sect. Chapter 2144. Leaving one's name behind meant leaving behind traces. Years later, through these wooden boards, future generations would be able to find out which powerhouses had appeared in which era. The Daoist sect's era had produced many progenitors, but in this era, there were only half progenitors. The reason for this was that the Lu family had left with a group of powerful clans, and the sixth mainland had covered up the fifth mainland's sky. All of this was history. It was not that this era was weak, but rather that they could not break through that sky. The further down he went, the weaker the wooden boards became. These boards are not made from ordinary wood, and they're strong enough to carry the writings of progenitors and leave their names behind for hundreds of millions of years. Even so, the boards below have already decayed, so don't touch them. If you do, they'll turn to dust, the Rainmaster warned. Lu Yin looked at the wooden boards in front of him, but he did not recognize the words carved on them. This should be from the Daoist sect's era, where the mist ancestors' generation had also been progenitors. However, their brilliance had been overshadowed by the 9 mountains and 8 seas. This did not mean that they were not brilliant, as they had represented various eras. Although not all of the 9 mountains and 8 seas had appeared, each era had more or less produced such powerhouses. Lu Yin could not find the mist ancestor's name. After the flames of war, many are gone, the Rainmaster said solemnly. The mist ancestor's eyes dimmed. It was extremely difficult to pass down the legacy of human civilization, and even the remnants of progenitors would disappear. In this vast universe, who could live forever? Even progenitors could not do so. Could it be that only those above the progenitor realm could obtain eternal life? She hoped that not only individuals could live forever, but also the entire human civilization. Lu Yin lowered his hand. The universe was too vast and deep, and no one could see the end of it. Perhaps one day, a civilization stronger than the human civilization or the everlasting tribe would appear, and these things would no longer be preserved. The mist ancestor returned to the mirror without saying anything. Lu Yin and the Rainmaster left the Sea of Flames, and he headed to Stargazing Deck alone. He had touched Stargazing Deck before and seen Lu Jing kneel. This time he hoped to see the traitor that Lu Jing had kneeled to, the owner of the Dusty General Appointment platform. His only concern was that this would affect fate. Lu Yin's gaze trembled. So what if it did? He had come into contact with fate's divination of the past and the future many times. The more he was afraid of it, the more he would not be able to escape. Later he would learn more about fate. He wanted to see if fate still existed and if Xianxia's fear would become reality. Of course, there was also the fates, and that had transformed into specks of fates and in the middle of the black and white comma. He did not know if they would scatter if he touched the stargazing tower, but no matter what, he had to touch the tower. Lu Yin's arrival was very sudden, and the moment the Star Master saw him, he heard Lu Yin say, "Sorry to disturb you, mentor." He then took a step forward and stepped onto the stargazing deck. In that instant, the Star Master's heart began to burn. The last time he had touched the stargazing deck, all of the fates and had scattered. This time, although his heart was burning just as hot as before, the fates and did not appear. Instead, specks of stars appeared around his body. These specks of light should have been within the black and white commas, as if there was a universe within his heart. They were the stars of the universe, but now that they had appeared outside his body, they made him seem both sacred and imposing. At this moment he couldn't see Stargazing Deck or Astral 10. Instead, countless images flashed before his eyes like silhouettes of time. At the same time, in a certain corner of the Neoverse, Xianxia suddenly coughed up blood, scaring the noblewoman so much that she almost fainted. In the outerverse, the Lady of Fate suddenly opened her eyes. From the outside, the white clouds were dyed red. In the astral beast domain, the Skyminder Imperial Tutor was looking in the direction of the path of despair. Two half-progenitors were staring at him, giving him a lot of pressure. Fortunately, the Yao Emperor was personally overseeing the path of despair. Just as he was thinking about this, his expression suddenly changed. What was this again? He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground half dead. In the astral tree domain, a pair of cold eyes stared at him with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. I triggered fate again. Damn it. In front of the stargazing deck in Astral 10, Lu Yin took several steps back as a mysterious force pushed him away. The mist ancestor appeared and looked at the stargazing deck in shock. She had been here before, and after breaking through to the envoy level, she had seen some images on the stargazing deck more than once. But what had just happened? She felt a mysterious power sweep past her, which made her feel uneasy. The stargazer's expression turned ugly and he glared at Lu Yin. What are you trying to do? Lu Yin woke up, but the specks of light on his body had disappeared the moment he had retreated. He wasn't sure what had happened, but the first thing he did after waking up was to check his heart. He relaxed when he saw that the specks of light between the black and white commas had not been lost. When he heard the stargazer's angry shout, Lu Yin felt a little embarrassed and awkward. I wanted to give Mentor something but I forgot. The stargazer was displeased, but he had always been calm no matter what happened. Even when Lu Yin had triggered fate the last time, he had calmly explained the situation and even helped Lu Yin retrieve the fates. This time, however, he was a little angry. The Academy's rules cannot be broken. Do you know that? Lu Yin hurriedly apologized. I know. I'm really sorry, Mentor. The Star Master looked at him deeply. The stargazing deck has existed since the Ark. No matter how long it has been, the stargazing deck will always be on the Ark. No accidents are allowed to happen. Even if we die, the stargazing deck must still exist. You have broken the Academy's rules, and it is very likely that you will cause irreparable damage. Lu Yin apologized again. I'm really sorry, Mentor. Seeing Lu Yin's sincerity, the stargazer's expression softened. You want to trigger fate? Lu Yin replied, I want to see the scene that I wasn't able to see back then. The stargazer had a complicated expression. Do you know the Dean's full name? Lu Yin did not understand why the stargazer would suddenly mention the Dean. I don't know. No one has ever mentioned it. The Dean's name is Xiaoqian, the stargazer said. Xiaoqian? Lu Yin was stunned. What a familiar name, but he soon recalled it and was shocked. The Xiaoqian who's ranked first on the rain list? The stargazer retracted his gaze and slowly spoke of a past that no one knew about. The 10 academies were once warships and Limitless was the leading ship. At some point in time, the 10 warships were renamed the Astral Combat Academy, and they recruited students to spread human civilization. Xiaoqian was the most talented student in Limitless since the academy was founded, and he was also the first dean. There was no dean before him. He became famous at a young age, reaching the Enlighter realm at the age of 20 and breaking through to become an astral envoy at the age of 40. He's considered one of the most talented cultivators in all of human history. Lu Yin was shocked. An Enlighter at 20 and an astral envoy at 40. Wasn't that the same progress as the 10 arbiters? No, the 4 young ancestors of the cosmic tree? He was truly an absolute genius. Before he became an astral envoy, every student could enter the tower based on their contributions, and there was no limit to the number of times they could enter. However, the stargazer sighed. Xiaoqian broke through to become an astral envoy and directly became the dean. After that, he continued to visit the tower and announced that he had obtained an ancient inheritance. From then on, he visited the tower more and more often. Of course, his cultivation increased faster and faster as well. In less than 100 years, he reached 6 origin tribulations, which is a power level of 1,000,000. It's rare to see someone like that in history. At that time, everyone was looking forward to it, including the Hall of Honor and Elder Chan. Everyone believed that he would definitely become a demi-ancestor and even break through to the progenitor realm. Lu Yin's expression changed. He remembered that the mentors had once said that the dean had gone crazy from cultivation. I don't know when he went to the stargazing tower, but he went crazy and set Astral 10 on fire. He went crazy every day. Before he went crazy, Limitless was always the strongest ship in the Astral Combat Tournament. But after he went crazy, everything changed. The Stargazer looked at Lu Yin. This was what the previous Stargazer told me. The rules for visiting the tower were also changed because of the crazy Dean. Thus you should know why you are not allowed to enter the tower. Here you will be able to see some of the scenes of human civilization, but at the same time, it can also bring about disaster. The more he spoke, the more afraid the Stargazer became. If Lu Yin had gone crazy, then Astral 10 would not have been the only one destroyed. The entire human domain would have been doomed. The more he thought about it, the more wary he became of Lu Yin. He even contacted the other mentors, afraid that Lu Yin would forcefully enter the tower. The Mist Ancestor was surprised. Something like that happened at the Stargazer Tower? I've seen it many times before and nothing happened. The Stargazer looked at the Mist Ancestor. Many times? What did that mean? At that moment the mentors appeared one by one. They had all been notified by the Stargazer and immediately blocked the entrance to the tower. Brat, you're all grown up now. You don't care about us old folks anymore, do you? Looks like you want to steal the Stargazer Tower. Old Kai ground his teeth and looked at Lu Yin as if he was a pirate. He suddenly remembered that this brat was from Leon's armada, and Heizage Leon was the pirate king. The Rainmaster said seriously, Lu Yin, if you still consider yourself a student of Astral 10, then don't touch the Stargazer Tower again. The Sand Master clenched his fists and his muscles bulged as his battle force erupted. Brat, you'll have to step over my dead body if you want to pass. The Trial Master sighed. The Academy is in trouble again. Someone actually dares to steal the Stargazer Tower. Lu Yin was speechless and smiled bitterly. Mentors, is there a misunderstanding? Old Kai and the others looked at the Stargazer. The Stargazer said, just in case, don't let him touch the Stargazer Tower again. Lu Yin pursed his lips. All right, I won't touch it. The mentors sighed in relief. All right, you're becoming more and more unruly. You used to cause trouble on the Fifth Mainland, but now you're not even letting your alma mater off. Old Kai glared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin spread out his hands. I remember that you promised me that I could climb the other Astral Combat Academy's Stargazer Towers, but I haven't been to all of them. If I can't do it here, I'll just go to another Stargazer Tower. The Stargazer's expression changed. In the past, Lu Yin hadn't triggered fate by touching the Stargazer Tower. He had seen too many things happen to the crazy headmaster, but now he couldn't guarantee that nothing would happen to Lu Yin. This brat had triggered fate and only the heavens knew if he would go crazy. No, you can't trigger fate again. No one can guess what the outcome will be. The Stargazer hurriedly refused. Chapter 2145. Just as Lu Yin was about to say something, the wireless goo vibrated. He glanced at it and was astonished. Senior, please enlighten them, Lu Yin said to the Mist Ancestor and then walked to the side to connect to the wireless goo. On the other side, the Mist Ancestor looked at the mentors. Kids, aren't you making a mountain out of a molehill? Lu Daozi, what did you just do? Destiny's daughter asked directly after contacting Lu Yin. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. She could sense that he had triggered fate? No way. Last time when he had triggered fate, Xianxia and the others had vomited blood. Xianxia had guessed that he had triggered fate, so it wasn't strange that she could guess it as well. No, Xianxia guessed it because he had the most fates in at that time, so it was more of a guess than a confirmation that he had triggered fate. Nothing, just drinking tea, Lu Yin replied. Destiny's daughter fell silent for a moment before replying, I saw it. Lu Yin raised his brows. Saw what? I saw you trigger fate through the Xiantian mirror, she replied. Lu Yin didn't believe her. You can see me through the Xiantian mirror? Are you kidding me? Does that mean you can monitor everyone? Destiny's daughter replied, the Xiantian mirror can't see you, but it can sense fate. Just now, the Xiantian mirror sensed fate being triggered and your image appeared in my mind. You must have triggered fate, so there's no need to deny it. Lu Yin thought about it for a moment before replying, all right. So what if I've triggered fate? Aren't you unwilling to interact with fate? Destiny's daughter was curious. Lu Yin was helpless. I want to divine a word, a person or an item, so I can only try to trigger fate. Destiny's daughter replied, that's useless. I don't know how you triggered fate, but doing so will only attract fate's attention and cause a backlash. It's not beneficial to divination, so it's best not to try again. Otherwise, if you really do trigger fate, the consequences will be unimaginable. Lu Yin laughed. You're Destiny's disciple, so you should be happy that you managed to trigger fate. Why does it seem like you don't want fate to appear? Because I want to break through to ancestral ascension. I am the new fate, Destiny's daughter replied decisively. There was no one who didn't want to break through to the ancestor realm. If one's cultivation was too low, they wouldn't dare to think about it. Once one's cultivation was high enough, the desire to break through to the ancestor realm would appear, and it would become even more intense. This was especially so when one reached the level of the 12 Heavenly Gate sect leaders. It was almost certain that one would be able to break through to the ancestor realm. Hen Exin wanted to break through the ancestral barrier and become the master of this era. Jue desired to break through the ancestor realm and become the death god. The Lady of Fate naturally wanted to break through the ancestral gate and become the new destiny. If that was the case, then things would be much easier. Lu Yin thought about it for a moment before replying, I don't care what you think. I need to divine every word, person or item. Otherwise, I'll just have to constantly try to influence fate. Since normal methods won't work, then I'll have to break the rules. If you don't believe that there's no other way. Aren't you afraid that fate will appear and become the ruler of this era? Fate Maiden replied. Lu Yin laughed. It's a good thing for humanity. Fate is one of the 6 Daoists of the 3 realms. Once it appears, it'll be able to guide humanity. I'm willing. The Lady of Fate didn't reply immediately. No one knew what she was thinking. The longer she thought about it, the more certain he was that his plan would succeed. The last time he had tried to influence fate, Xianxia had coughed up blood, and he believed that anyone related to fate was unlucky. Xianxia had probably coughed up blood as well, and it had been quite severe. Otherwise, he wouldn't have revealed his ambition to replace fate. She would have done everything she could to prevent him from influencing fate again. The more she didn't want to influence fate, the greater the threat he would pose to her. This was interesting. What do you want to divine? The Lady of Fate finally replied after a long pause. Back in the Above Heaven sect, she had been a disciple of fate and had never faced any setbacks from the start of her cultivation until she became the sect master of Elysium. Everyone treated her with respect and no one dared to offend her. At the same time, the geniuses of this era had all dimmed, and she had been the most dazzling star of the Above Heaven sect. However, in this era she was being threatened by Lu Yin. She had only felt this way when she had learned that Lu Bujing had stolen the power of fate and cultivated the ancestral qi of the 3 suns. The Eternals were her mortal enemies and she had only felt hostility from them. She was actually being threatened. Lu Yin and Lu Bujing were both members of the Lu family. Lu Yin's lips curled up. You're willing to perform a divination for me? I can try, the Lady of Fate replied. She didn't want to either. At Lu Yin's level, divination would definitely not be simple, but there was no other way. It was better than Lu Yin continuously trying to influence fate and causing her to cough up blood. It was fine for now, but if Lu Yin tried to influence fate while she was breaking through, that would be terrible. Suddenly, she realized that she was really being held by the throat. Alright, let's start with the words. I want you to divine Zhua, Lu Yin replied. 20 years ago, the Eternals had used liquid to devour the astral source universe. At that time, Lu Yin had guessed that it was Zhua's plan, but he still wasn't sure. If it was Zhua's plan, then there wouldn't be any problems with this divination. If it wasn't, then it meant that Zhua's plan had yet to begin. In the outer verse, the Lady of Fate was at the center of an asteroid belt that resembled a minor world. The center of the asteroid belt was filled with planets. Some of these planets were in a barbaric era, where they fought against wild beasts and worshipped the heavens. Others were in an era of cold weapons where they were divided into countries and didn't cultivate. Some planets had advanced to the point where they could even step out of their planet. The Lady of Fate often observed the development of the humans on these planets and used this to deduce the cultivation of divination. At this moment, the Lady of Fate saw Lu Yin's reply and spoke from within the white clouds. He wants me to divine a word, Zhua. Oh. Starsibyl was shocked. Lu Yin once asked my Starsibyl sect to perform a divination, but it caused my master Mr. Zhu's body to crack open and he died from his injuries. This word can't be used. The Lady of Fate replied, change the word. Lu Yin sneered and directly replied, just this word. It can't be used. I'll think of something myself. You once asked the Starsibyl sect to perform a divination, and the sect master died because of this word. What does this word represent? The Lady of Fate asked. Lu Yin was shocked. Mr. Zhou died? That's right. Starsabil said that because of this word, his body cracked open and he died from his injuries. The Lady of Fate replied. Lu Yin's expression turned ugly as he had never thought that Mr. Zhou would actually die. No wonder why he had not seen him all this time. He had thought that Mr. Zhou had relied on the Lady of Fate just like Starsabil, and that he could look for the Lady of Fate if he needed help. He had never thought that Mr. Zhou would actually die. When? Lu Yin asked. The Lady of Fate looked at Starsabil. She did not know when Mr. Zhou had died as she had never seen this person before. When she had first found the Starsabil sect, Starsabil had been the only one left. Starsabil replied. Before the astral source universe was devoured. The Lady of Fate replied to Lu Yin. Lu Yin shook his head, feeling apologetic towards the Starsabil sect and Mr. Zhou. Although he had not interacted much with Mr. Zhou, this person had helped him in the past. He had never thought that Mr. Zhou would die because of this word. From the looks of it, Xianxia's reaction was quite fast, as he had only been severely injured during the divination. Xianxia's divination skills might not have been as good as Mr. Zhou's, and he had managed to escape with his life. I don't know how to divine this word, the Lady of Fate replied once more. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. You're a half-progenitor and Mr. Zhou is far from your level. Either you divine it or I'll activate my own destiny. Lu Dozi, what exactly does this word mean? Where did you learn it from? You must explain it to me clearly, the Lady of Fate replied. Lu Yin was resolute. Either I divine it or I'll activate my own destiny. That's it. On the other side, the Lady of Fate felt that Lu Yin was even more hateful than Lu Bujing. Just you wait. She then looked at Starsabil. Let's work together for the divination. The mysterious sky mirror doesn't ask about cultivation, but only innate gifts. You can work together with me to cultivate the mysterious sky mirror. Starsabil was helpless. To the outside world, the Starsabil sect claimed that Xianxia was the only person who had successfully cultivated the mysterious sky mirror. In reality, both Mr. Zhou and Starsabil had cultivated the mysterious sky mirror. However, they had not cultivated the mysterious sky mirror, but rather the Starsabil mirror which had evolved from the mysterious sky mirror. They could fool others but they could not fool the Lady of Fate. You really want to divine it? This word isn't simple at all. Starsabil hesitated. The Lady of Fate put away the wireless goo. Let's give it a try. If we don't, he won't give up. Starsabil was helpless. She also understood Lu Yin. He was a very stubborn person, but he also had many opportunities and was always able to come into contact with extraordinary things. Every time he asked the Starsabil sect for a divination, the results would always be extraordinary. The further they went, the more troublesome it would become. Starsabil could not refuse and she had no choice but to come into contact with Lu Yin. In outer space, meteorites were arranged under the Lady of Fate's control, forming 108 rings that circled around her and Starsabil. The white clouds dissipated, revealing the Lady of Fate's true appearance. Her eyes sparkled and beside her Starsabil's eyes were similarly deep, but they shone as brightly as day. The two looked at each other at the same time, and a formless fluctuation distorted space, causing the surrounding meteorites to tremble. A word appeared in the void, turbid. In the next instant the meteorites all exploded and Starsabil spat out a mouthful of blood. She retreated several steps and could not stand steadily. The Lady of Fate's eyes widened, and she waved her hand to disperse all of the meteorite fragments, causing them to scatter in all directions in the outerverse. Many planets were destroyed by the meteorites, and even planets with powerful technological weapons were unable to react in time to the sudden appearance of the meteorites. They did not even have time to detect the meteorites before they were pierced through. Countless people had died from this wave of meteorites. In divination, if there was a cause, there would be an effect. The greater the cause, the greater the effect. The Fate Maiden and Starsabil would not bear the brunt of this effect. Instead, this effect would be transferred out through the meteorite, and those who had died would bear the brunt of this effect. Mr. Zhou had divine death because he had not transferred the effect, but the Lady of Fate was different. This was what fate had taught her. Since she was divining, she was stealing clues from the river of time which could easily lead to a backlash. This was the only way to protect herself. The Lady of Fate panted heavily and had a shocked expression. She had just seen a person. Was it him? What did you see? The Lady of Fate asked Starsabil. Chapter 2146. Starsabil met Fate Lady's puzzled gaze and shook her head. Her face was pale. I didn't see it. The moment I came into contact with that character, I suffered a backlash. Starsabil then looked around and saw that the meteorites had all disappeared. Logically speaking, she should have died just like Mr. Zhou, but why hadn't she? Why had she only suffered light injuries? Fate's daughter took a deep breath and took out the wireless goo to contact Lu Yin. Lu Yin had been waiting the entire time, and the misty ancestor was chatting happily with the mentors. They all treated her like a junior and did not even dare to look her in the eye, which allowed Lu Yin to relax. The wireless goo vibrated and Lu Yin looked over. I almost died. This was Fate's daughter's reply. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. What do you mean? Fate's daughter replied, this word involves the only true God of the Eternals. That person is not someone we can speculate about. Even during the above heaven era, that person was very mysterious. What does this word have to do with him? You almost got us killed. Lu Yin did not know that Fate's daughter had transferred the karma of the backlash, and no one would inform him of the deaths of those in the outerverse. After all, it was not a big deal. What did you deduce? Lu Yin asked. Fate's daughter's gaze was cold. If not for the karma being transferred, she would have been seriously injured. This outcome was even more serious than Lu Yin's triggering of fate. I didn't deduce anything. I was injured as soon as I touched that word. I won't deduce anything else. Lu Yin's heart sank and he looked up at the sky. The liquid had devoured the astral source universe, but it was still not part of the turbid stratagem. What was this turbid stratagem that Mr. Mu wanted to investigate? Did it have nothing to do with the liquid? It should be related, as this was causing the entire fifth mainland to lose its astral source and causing human cultivation to regress. If this was not the turbid stratagem, then how terrifying would the true turbid stratagem be? The wireless goo vibrated and Fate's daughter replied, where did you learn this word? Lu Yin replied, I guessed. On the other side, Fate's daughter and Starsabil stared blankly at the wireless goo's reply. Even in their wildest dreams, they had never imagined that Lu Yin would reply with such a word. This was too perfunctory, and even lying to them was much better than this answer. Fate's daughter's anger towards Lu Yin far surpassed Lu Bujing's. Starsabil also felt a rare sense of absurdity. As expected, Lu Yin had exceeded her expectations. Lu Yin's reply appeared again. This word is very important to me, as cultivators are blessed with good fortune. This word suddenly appeared when I drank the wisdom root tea and broke through. It's incredibly important, so I must divine it. Let's try again. Destiny's daughter's eyes widened, and she subconsciously wanted to find Lu Yin and give him the lifeline. Sect Master, he shouldn't be lying, Starsabil suddenly spoke up. Destiny's daughter was puzzled. Do you believe that he guessed it? Starsabil earnestly replied, I believe in the root of wisdom tea. The root of wisdom came from ancestor Hui, and it's a strange treasure that he planted. After drinking the root of wisdom tea, one's thoughts will be enlightened, and one will be able to comprehend everything quickly. Coupled with a breakthrough in one's cultivation, it's possible that something will appear in the unseen world. The Lady of Fate shook her head. Even if he had an epiphany, it's impossible for that word to appear. She then immediately replied, we can't divine that word. If the first time doesn't work, then I'll try a second time. If the second time doesn't work, then I'll try a third time. If the third time doesn't work, then I'll try countless times. There's bound to be one day where I succeed. Destiny's daughter gritted her teeth. Countless times? That was asking for her life. Every time she tried to activate fate, she would vomit blood. Countless times? She would have vomited blood long ago. Up to you. Since you want to activate fate, then I'll help you. Destiny's daughter did not want to be held back by Lu Yin. Lu Yin did not understand. What do you mean? Destiny's daughter replied, if you activate fate, then it'll be very easy for you to do so. Since that's the case, then I can only search for fate with you. Otherwise, fate will appear and find out that I didn't do anything. Alright, you can continue. Lu Yin sneered. Destiny's daughter did not want him to activate fate because she wanted to become an ancestor and replace fate. However, there was also another point, which was that she had definitely been affected. Just like how Xianxia had vomited blood, she had not felt well either. Lu Yin was not afraid of being deceived. Back in the starry sky of the trees he had created a legend. Alright, then I'll continue to activate fate. You help me find fate as well. Destiny's daughter's eyelids twitched and she felt a headache coming on. She had thought that Lu Yin was just trying to scare her, but he actually wanted to activate fate? This would not do. If fate was constantly activated, then not only would she not be able to cultivate, but she would also continuously deteriorate. Worst of all, fate might actually be activated, which would make things difficult for her. She looked at Starsabil. Contact him. Starsabil nodded. Evidently, Destiny's daughter could not communicate with Lu Yin. Lu Yin put away the wireless goo and looked at the mentors with a headache. He had to activate fate again to scare Destiny's daughter. This woman unconditionally supported the Daoist, which made him feel uneasy. He did not know what she was thinking, but now that he had finally found a way to threaten her, he could not give up. The Star Master was still on guard against Lu Yin, and when he saw Lu Yin look over he shouted, "What are you looking at? Don't touch Stargazing Tower." The other mentors all stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin pursed his lips. Why did he look like he was guarding against a thief? He was too vigilant. Was this still the same calm and taciturn mentor from before? At that moment the wireless goo vibrated again. Lu Yin looked over. "I'm Starsabil Alliance Leader Lu. Long time no see." Lu Yin raised his brows. Destiny's daughter could not continue the conversation, so she had asked Starsabil to do it. "You have to divine that word," he replied. Starsabil was very calm as she understood Lu Yin very well. "That word can't be divined. Even if you force us to our deaths we won't be able to. We still have to help Alliance Leader Lu in the future. Does Alliance Leader Lu think that dying over a word is worth it?" Lu Yin had not really planned on divining that word as he already knew the results. He had only wanted to use it to get them to divine something else, and at the same time to see how much fate would affect them. From the looks of it, it was very significant and Destiny's daughter was definitely panicking. "Alright, I've always been on good terms with the Starsabil sect, so I won't be divining that word. Instead I'll be divining a person." Starsabil looked at the wireless goo and did not relax. If Lu Yin wanted to divine something, even an ant would not be easy, let alone a person. He was not playing around with them, so there was no need for him to divine something useless. She did not even want to know who Lu Yin was divining. "Alliance Leader Lu, I'm injured today. Let's wait for a while before divining," Starsabil replied. Lu Yin did not force them. 3 days. Help me divine something about a person in 3 days. Starsabil was in a difficult position and she looked at Destiny's daughter. Destiny's daughter replied, "Ask him who he wants to divine." Starsabil replied. Lu Yin told them about Mr. Mu. 20 years ago Mr. Mu had left with a strange attitude, and Lu Yin wanted to know how he was doing. With Mr. Mu's cultivation they might not be able to divine anything, but Lu Yin still wanted to know if Mr. Mu was alive or dead. Starsabil had never heard of Mr. Mu, and neither had Destiny's daughter. Generally speaking, with their knowledge they could divine anything they had not heard of, but that was only for others. When it came to Lu Yin, the more they had not heard of him, the more uneasy they felt. "Ask about this person's identity and cultivation," Destiny's daughter said. Starsabil replied. Lu Yin laughed. "If I knew, would I still need you to divine anything?" He did not dare to tell them that Mr. Mu was definitely a progenitor and not just any progenitor. At the very least he knew Wuxia, who was acquainted with Mr. Mu, which meant that Mr. Mu was at least from the above sky sect. He could not say this as Destiny's daughter would definitely not divine anything. Destiny's daughter frowned. "Alright, we'll do it in 3 days." Lu Yin put down the wireless goo and turned around, only to see all the mentors staring at him. He rolled his eyes. "Alright, I won't touch Stargazing Tower." 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, Lu Yin had distanced himself from Stargazing Tower, allowing the mentors to relax. He found the trial master and asked about the crazy headmaster. At the same time many students from Astral 10 saw him and gathered around him. Lu Yin had yet to graduate and was half a guest mentor, so he gave these students a day's worth of lessons and satisfied his craving to be a master. He felt that he should have taken in a disciple, one that was not someone like Ku Wei. After 3 days he immediately contacted Destiny's daughter, and it was Starsabil who answered. "Can we do the divination now?" Lu Yin asked. Starsabil replied, "Alliance Master Lu, could this person be a progenitor?" I don't know, Lu Yin replied. On the other side, Starsabil had no choice but to put down the wireless goo. Destiny's daughter waved her hand, and many meteorites appeared around her once more to begin the divination. Mr. Mu. Very quickly, Starsabil spat out another mouthful of blood, but Destiny's daughter reacted even faster this time and flung herself away before all the meteorites shattered. She was not injured, but her expression was extremely ugly. A progenitor and not an ordinary one at that. He's at least at the level of 9 mountains and 8 seas. Starsabil bitterly wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Fortunately, her injuries were not serious this time, and Destiny's daughter had reacted quickly. Mr. Mu is a progenitor? Destiny's daughter took out the wireless goo and contacted Lu Yin. Lu Yin was slightly apprehensive and hoped that nothing would happen to Mr. Mu. At this moment, the wireless goo vibrated, and even though there was no sound, Lu Yin could feel Destiny's daughter's intense anger. Lu Daozi, this Mr. Mu is at least at the level of 9 mountains and 8 seas. You want us to divine someone like him? Why don't you let Lu Bujing try using the ancestral qi of the 3 suns? Lu Yin felt guilty, but he quickly replied, I don't know. Did you divine him? Destiny's daughter was furious, but she could not tell whether Lu Yin was telling the truth or not. She threw the wireless goo to Starsabil, not wanting to contact Lu Yin. Starsabil bitterly replied, Alliance leader Lu, forgive us for being powerless. This Mr. Mu's level is too high and he's not someone we can divine. You're injured? Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Yes, Starsabil replied. Lu Yin heaved a sigh of relief. Just like with the divination of the word turbid, he had never thought that they would be able to divine anything. He had only wanted to make a judgment based on whether or not they were injured. Mr. Mu was definitely fine, or else they would not have been injured. Furthermore, the turbid plan was not this one. He had achieved his goal, but it was not a good thing for Destiny's daughter and Starsabil. Most importantly, they did not know that Lu Yin had already achieved his goal. If they did, Destiny's daughter might even charge over and fight him to the death. Chapter 2147. What can I say about you guys? You can't divine words or people. To think that you're a disciple of destiny and one of the leaders of the 12 Elysians, Lu Yin replied with dissatisfaction. Fate Maiden saw this and could not help but clench her fists. Starsabil smiled bitterly. Alliance Master Lu, words and people are too complicated. If you want to divine them, you might have to ask Destiny. Lu Yin hurriedly replied, forget it. No matter what, you guys are helping me. Since Fate Maiden doesn't want me to activate Destiny, I won't do it. Starsabil was astonished. Was he that easy to talk to? Fate Maiden was shocked as well. What did he say? Starsabil replied, he said that he won't activate Destiny. Fate Maiden was confused. This person had changed too quickly. Why was he suddenly so easy to talk to? Why did she not believe him? She had just been thinking about how she hated Lu Bujing the most during the above Sky Sect era. But in this era, it had become Lu Yin. Everyone was from the Lu family and everyone else was no different from a passerby in his eyes. However, these 2 Lu family members were the ones she hated the most. But now it seemed that Lu Yin was not that annoying and he had not pushed them too far. How about this? Help me divine another person. Starsabil raised her brows. Fate Maiden's gaze turned cold. This person had not given up. You don't have to be afraid of this person. It's Undying Yushan. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Starsabil and Fate Maiden exchanged glances. Undying Yushan? This was not a problem at all, as this person did not have much ability. Even the Starsabil sect had tried to divine him, and although they had not been able to find him, they had not suffered any backlash. Alliance Master Lu, are you sure it's Undying Yushan? We divined once and sensed the Netherworld ancestor's aura, but we didn't manage to divine this person. Lu Yin replied, it's Undying Yushan. Your Starsabil sect did not manage to divine him back then, so I'll have to ask Fate Maiden to do it now. Starsabil looked at Fate Maiden. Fate Maiden nodded. All right. Logically speaking, there was no need to hold back when divining Undying Yushan, as Undying Yushan did not have the ability to cause any backlash. Even if it involved the Netherworld ancestor, Fate Maiden was not afraid, as she herself could divine him. It was not that the Netherworld ancestor was not powerful. It was just that the current Netherworld ancestor did not have much of a cultivation base. She was able to find him. However, after the previous two incidents, the Lady of Fate had subconsciously made some arrangements before beginning her divination. This time she did not join hands with Starsabel. At the periphery of the meteorite belt, a figure stealthily looked over. Not long after, in the Astral Combat Academy, the wireless goo vibrated. The results of Undying Yushan's divination are out. I saw someone from the Yu family. Luyin was surprised. Someone from the Yu family? What did he mean? Is he hiding in the Yu family? That wasn't divined. Divinations can't reveal everything, and they can only reveal situations or events related to the divined item. When I divined Undying Yushan, I saw that everyone from the Yu family had something similar to Undying Yushans within their bodies. Later on, I divined again and confirmed that it was an evil scripture, Lady Fate replied. Wasn't the evil scripture a cultivation method? Why did everyone in the Yu family have it in their bodies? Luyin was puzzled. The Lady of Fate had said that after so many years, no one knew what the demonic scripture had become. He thought of Big Sis. What was the deal with the Netherworld ancestor and the evil scripture? However, since he had seen the Yu family in his divination, he had to make a trip there. The entire Yu family was in the solar system. The Imperial Tutor had said that Undying Yushan was hiding in the solar system. The Imperial Tutor's divination with the Book of Destiny might be even more accurate than the Lady of Fate. Is that all you've divined? Let's try a few more times and see if we can get more information about Undying Yushan. This person is too well hidden and I need to know everything about him. Lady Fate replied, divination isn't cultivation. I've divined many times over the past few days and I suffered a backlash the first 2 times. I've reached my limit and can't try anymore. You really can't? How many more days do I have to wait? Luyin wasn't willing to give up. He wanted to kill Undying Yushan in one strike. Lady Fate was helpless. If you really care, you can have Qingqing go to the Yu family. She's the Netherworld ancestor, so she might be able to gain something there. At this point, Luyin suddenly thought of something. Since Big Sis is the Netherworld ancestor and the Yu family is her descendant, why hasn't she visited them in the past 20 years? Lady Fate's eyes flashed. I need more of her fetters. Luyin didn't understand. When I came to this era, the first person I looked for was the Netherworld ancestor. I took her in as a disciple and worked with her to deepen our fetters and taint her with my fate. The deeper the fetters, the greater my gains when she recovers her strength. Fate did the same thing, but I was luckier than Fate because I found the Netherworld ancestor. She's an absolute genius who isn't any weaker than the 3 realms and 6 Daoists. Once she recovers her cultivation, it's not impossible for her to become one of the 3 realms and 6 Daoists. At that time she'll be able to help me achieve Fate. What are you trying to steal from her? Luyin's gaze darkened. Lady Fate replied, it's just fetters and nothing to do with stealing. It'll only be beneficial to her, but since you want to find this Undying Yushan so badly, you can have her go to the Yu family to investigate. No need. Luyin immediately refused. He didn't want anything to happen to Big Sis. The demonic scripture was obviously filled with evil. No one knew why Big Sis had become like this when she was the Netherworld ancestor, but it might have something to do with it. He didn't want anything to happen to her. The wireless goo was silent for a while before Lady Fate replied, it's too late. She's already gone. Luyin's gaze turned cold. You told her? She saw the message we sent. I was divining and couldn't detect her presence, Lady Fate replied. Luyin clenched his fists. Only an idiot would believe this. How could a half-ancestor be approached by an emissary without knowing? How was that possible? Big Sis went to the Yu family? Luyin asked. Lady Fate replied, that's right. Luyin put down the wireless goo and bid farewell to the mentors. He then left the Astral Combat Academy and headed straight for the Yu family. The Yu family was in the solar system. When the 7 courts had disbanded, the Yu, Ku, Su and Hui families had all stayed in the solar system. Their ancestral lands were also outside the solar system and were very close to each other. After 20 years, just like Hen Xian and the others, they had tried to escape the 5th mainland as soon as the situation turned bad. Although the threat of the everlasting race had been eliminated, they still hadn't left the solar system. With Luyin's speed, he arrived in an instant, much faster than Big Sis. He looked at the river that stretched out from the solar system. That was where the Yu family was now. Most of the river was outside the solar system, and only a small part of it was within the solar system. The entire Yu family was currently on an island within the solar system. Lu Yin's arrival didn't attract the Yu family's attention. Elder Yu was still rowing the boat, but he had long since lost track of Lu Yin's whereabouts. Is that the Yu family? The mist ancestor asked. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. Senior knows about them? The mist ancestor replied, in our era, the Yu family was a moderate power with a half-ancestor overseeing it. However, it has declined and the entire family only has a single cultivator with 6 tribulation origin tribulations, and he's on the verge of death. Lu Yin looked at Elder Yu who had been heavily injured and wasn't far from death. Senior, you remember the Yu family. Unfortunately, many of their records were lost after the war with the 6th mainland. This isn't just limited to the Yu family, but also to many other families in the 5th mainland. Even the Mavis family, which has the oldest inheritance, lost a large number of ancient texts. The fog ancestor calmly replied, I remember the Yu family because of a woman called Yu Xiaojing. She was one of the few in our generation who could compete with Xia Shang and the others, but it's a pity that she became powerless later on and was gradually left behind. She could compete with progenitor Qin and the others? Lu Yin was stunned. The Yu family had such a powerful person? When she was an enlighter, she could compete with Xia Shang, the Lu family and the frigid Immortal sect. However, she couldn't break through to become an emissary and was left behind. Before that, that woman was extremely dazzling. I don't know where she got all those strange battle techniques from, but they were all strange and unheard of. However, after becoming an emissary, there's no news of her anymore. Lu Yin nodded. Strange battle techniques. They should have come from the Yo secret art. Yo Year's Blood Lotus battle technique had come from the Yo secret art, which contained the Netherworld progenitor's inheritance. Senior, do you know anything about the Netherworld progenitor? Lu Yin asked. The mist ancestor shook his head. I've heard of the legends. It's said that the Yu family's ancestor was the Netherworld progenitor, and he even passed down the Yo secret art that can conceal the passage of time. However, it only allows the person who cultivates the Yo secret art to regain their youth, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the power of time. Furthermore, the relationship between the Yu family and the Netherworld progenitor has never been confirmed. The Netherworld progenitor lived in an era too long ago, and I've only heard Qing Mavis mention it. Old Fu is quite interested in that history, so he should know much more than I do. Our era was different from yours and it was closer to the era of the Above Heaven sect. The Dao Source sect was in charge and no one wanted to unify the human world, much less wage war against other families. Even the Lu family was under the Dao Source sect's control. In this era you can use various methods to investigate and understand some families, but in our era we only cared about ourselves. No matter how interested we were in other people's affairs, we couldn't investigate much. Lu Yin understood. From the looks of it, although the Dao Source sect's era had not been the most prosperous, it had been the most harmonious. The Dao Source sect had unified the 5th mainland, and the 9 mountains and 8 seas had been in charge. No one had dared to act presumptuously, and the various large families and sects had only cared about their own development. No one could easily wage war against others. During that era many people had led good lives. During the era of the Above Heaven sect humanity's military might had been at its peak, and during the era of the Dao Source sect humanity had been at its most peaceful. However, no matter what happened humanity would eventually decline. In that case, what would be the next golden age? Would it be brought about by Lu Yin himself? As he was thinking about this, Big Sis appeared. The Butian Gate was not far from the solar system. The mist ancestor was stunned when he saw Big Sis. She was different from the last time he had seen her, and she could no longer be considered a normal person. She had a triangular head, enormous arms and palms that could even lift him up. She also had a pair of incomparably large hammers that were several times larger than the hammers she had used during the Battle of Daoist. Chapter 2148. She had never seen such a weirdo in her entire life. Human? Was he human? Lu Yin hurried forward to stop her. What are you doing, sis? She was startled. Why are you here, little seven? Lu Yin was helpless. Sis, this has nothing to do with you. Go back first or come with me to the Above Sky sect. We can have a chat. She rolled her eyes. Get out of my way. Nothing to do with you. I'm their ancestor, the Netherworld progenitor. The Netherworld progenitor? The mist ancestor cried out in shock, losing her composure. She looked at the mist ancestor and her eyes lit up. What a pretty girl. She then looked at Lu Yin excitedly. Little Seven, is this your woman? Capable. Lu Yin hurried forward to cover her mouth. This was the mist ancestor, one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas. Even now he had to address her as senior, and did not dare to be impudent. She dared to say anything. Wait, why didn't the mist ancestor's soul-stirring aura affect her? No matter who it was, even Kue Luo and third uncle, they felt ashamed of their inferiority when they saw the mist ancestor for the first time. He did not react at all. It was unknown whether the mist ancestor had not heard or reacted, but she stared at her strangely. The netherworld progenitor? She slapped Lu Yin's hand away and puffed out her chest. That's me. The mist ancestor looked at Lu Yin as if he was an idiot. The netherworld progenitor? What a joke. That was a person that even their generation treated as a legend. Although it was not as unbelievable as the legends of the death god, the netherworld progenitor had existed for too long. It was so ancient that even if there was proof of its existence, not many people would believe it. Lu Yin pursed his lips. It was the Destiny daughter who said it. She was the disciple of Destiny, and the first thing she did after coming to this era was to say that she was the netherworld progenitor. The mist ancestor sized up Big Sis, and Big Sis sized her up as well. She whispered to Lu Yin, Little Seven, this girl isn't bad. She has both looks and figure. How was it? Did you get her? Sis, don't talk nonsense. She's a half-ancestor. Lu Yin hurriedly stopped her. She rolled her eyes. Half-ancestor? Can't you suppress one now? Don't find excuses. Are you embarrassed? I'll help you knock her out. You're just too gentle. You're not like a man. Lu Yin was speechless. Sis, she's the fog ancestor. He had to tell her the truth, or else who knew what she would say. She had been adopted by the pirate king Haizij Lian, and was a ruthless person who did things without any scruples. Big Sis was confused. What fog ancestor? During the era of the Daoist sect, she was one of the invincible progenitors of the 9 mountains and 8 seas. Fog ancestor, you should have been to Everlasting Island's bridge before, right? That fog originated from this person in front of you, and she was the one who created it. Nonsense, how long has it been? How could anyone still be alive? Big Sister didn't believe it. Aren't you alive as well? Big Sister was speechless. Gee, the netherworld ancestor was still alive. What was so strange about the fog ancestor being alive? Immediately, the way she looked at the mist ancestor changed. It was now filled with respect and curiosity. The fog ancestor continued to stare at Big Sister. Netherworld ancestor? The Apostle of Destiny said that? Are you serious? Lu Yin explained to the fog ancestor, it's true unless Destiny's daughter is lying to us, but she has no reason to do so. Big Sister was taken away 20 years ago and accepted as a disciple. Big Sis rolled her eyes at the mention of this. That woman is a scoundrel. If it wasn't for the fact that I had no hope of escaping, I wouldn't have taken her as my master. What could she possibly teach me? She then looked at the fog ancestor. Are you really the fog ancestor? The fog ancestor nodded. Are you really the netherworld ancestor? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Lu Yin sighed. Sis, don't go to the Yu family for now. I'm not in a hurry to find undying Yushan. No one can cause too much trouble in the 5th mainland. Big Sis was annoyed. It's not for you. After all, he's my descendant and I have to meet him. I've always forgotten that there's still a descendant like the Yu family. If I had known that the 7 Courts Yu family was my descendant, then my Leon's armada would have unified the cosmic sea long ago. Lu Yin wanted to persuade her further, but Big Sis refused to listen. Stop nagging. If you're worried, then come with me. It's just the Yu family. What's there to be afraid of? Lu Yin was helpless. He was afraid that Big Sis would come into contact with the evil scripture. Otherwise, how could a mere Yu family cause him any misgivings? Since you insist, we'll take a look. He then turned to the sticks and said, Lu Yin has come to pay a visit to the Yu family. His voice wasn't loud, but it traveled through the void and entered Elder Yu's ears as well as the other members of the Yu family. Everyone from the Yu family was stunned. Lu Yin had come? The Yu family had now merged into one. The Innerverse Yu court and the Neoverse Yu family were no longer divided. The head of the Yu family was Yu Qian. Whoever controlled the Yu secret symbol was the head of the Yu family. Now Yu Yi was in control, so Yu Qian was naturally the head of the family while Yu Kursan was an elder. When she heard that Lu Yin had arrived, Yu Qian's expression changed and she hurriedly gave the order to welcome him. Above the sticks, Elder Yu had a complicated expression. 4 families from the 7 courts were present, and Lu Yin was the first to meet the Yu family. This was either a good thing or a bad thing. What good could Lu Yin bring them? Then what bad thing? No matter what, Lu Yin's arrival meant that the entire Yu family had to welcome him. Elder Yu rowed the boat and slowly arrived at the bank of the sticks. Lu Yin and Big Sis were already waiting for them. The fog ancestor had returned to the mirror and didn't show himself. Greetings, Daoist. Elder Yu bowed when he saw Lu Yin. Lu Yin raised a hand. Senior, there's no need to be so courteous. I hope my sudden visit didn't cause any trouble for the Yu family. Of course not. My Yu family welcomes Daoist. Please, Elder Yu said. He wasn't surprised by Big Sis's strange behavior at all. Lu Yin and Big Sis boarded the boat. Big Sis sized up Elder Yu. This was her descendant and he was the oldest of her descendants. What should he call her? Ancestor? How did you get injured, Senior? Lu Yin asked. Elder Yu laughed. 10 years ago I was ambushed by a corpse king on the front lines. I was lucky enough to survive, but my astral vortex was destroyed and my cultivation was ruined. I don't know when I'll die, so I'll just leave it to fate. It's a blessing that Senior can look on the bright side, Lu Yin said. You can't treat it? Big Sis asked. Elder Yu looked at Big Sis. Who is this? Big Sis was interrupted by Lu Yin. She's my savior and she happened to have time this time, so she came to visit the Yu family. She's also very curious about the Yu family. Big Sis rolled her eyes. She wanted to say, your ancestor. Lu Yin naturally knew what she was going to say. Fortunately, he had reacted quickly. Elder Yu nodded. I see. Welcome. Not many people knew that Big Sis was the Netherworld's ancestor, and even with the Yu family's status and strength, they didn't have the qualifications to know. They would never have guessed that the person standing in front of them was the ancestor that they had been searching for all this time. The boat drifted on the river Styx and slowly approached the Yu family's territory. More than 100 people from the Yu family stood on the riverbank and waited quietly. Lu Yin looked over and saw that there were far fewer people in the Yu family than there had been in the Neoverse. After the chaos of war, even a powerful family like the Yu family had suffered, let alone the others. The Sword Sect had even lost Sword Mountain. Greetings, Daoist. Yu Qian led the group of Yu family members and bowed respectfully. Lu Yin nodded. He had been courteous to Elder Yu, but there was no need for this group of people. We took the liberty of visiting. I hope that the family head will not take offense. Yu Qian smiled. Of course, Daoist is welcome. Please. Beside Yu Qian was Yu Kursan, who was as cold as ever. Lu Yin still remembered that in the Neoverse, it had also been Elder Yu who had paddled on the river Styx. She had cried her heart out, and now that the family had been reunited, he wondered how she was doing. Behind Yu Kursan were Yo Yi, Yu Qin, Yu Ren and the others. Lu Yin glanced at Yo Yi. The Yo secret symbol was on her body. Big Sister sized up the group of people curiously. They were all her descendants and their cultivation levels were not bad. Her gaze suddenly focused on Yu Yi and Yu Qin. She sized them up from head to toe. Their figures and appearances were not bad. Not bad, not bad. She would give them to Little Seven and strengthen the relationship. She was observing the Yu family, and the Yu family members were also occasionally looking at her. Not everyone was as calm as old Yu. Big Sister's appearance was really hard to understand. She looked like a human, but at the same time she didn't look like a human. But at the same time she didn't look like a human either. Yo Yi glanced at Big Sis, who happened to be looking at her as well. This girl is too young. She's not suitable. Because she had cultivated the Yo secret symbol, Yo Yi still looked like a girl. Big Sis looked at her for a while and then back at Yu Qin. That gaze made her feel uncomfortable. Lu Yin greeted Elder Yu and then Yu Qin led him to the main hall of the Yu family. This was where the most distinguished guests were received. Daoist, please take a seat, Yu Qin said respectfully. Ever since the Yo secret symbol on Yo Yi's body had been exposed, they had been seeking protection, and the most ideal person was Lu Yin. They had contacted him several times and during that time they had been schemed against and threatened by him. They had interacted with him many times and Yu Qin was no stranger to him. Yu Kursan's expression was cold. Lu Yin looked around and saw Big Sis looking at Yuqin strangely. Yuqin felt uncomfortable, so he waved a hand. Family head, please stay. Everyone else can leave. There's no need to be so formal. Yuqian's eyes flashed as she knew that Lu Yin had something to say. She dismissed everyone else and personally poured tea for him. Yuqian was the only one left in the main hall. Call that girl in as well. Little Seven, she's quite suitable for you. Accept her, Big Sis said, but her words gave Yuqian a fright. There weren't many people in the universe who could call Lu Yin that. She didn't know who Big Sis was. When she saw Yuqian look over, Big Sis smiled terrifyingly. What's your name? Yuqian looked at Lu Yin in confusion. Lu Yin was speechless. Sis, be quiet. I'll tell you. Big Sis sneered and crossed her legs. She shook her chair, causing it to creak as if it was about to be crushed. Yuqian was confused. Who was this person? Family head, let Yo Year in, Lu Yin said. Yuqian didn't understand. Daoist, what's wrong with Year? Lu Yin smiled. Nothing, I just want to see the Yo secret symbol. Chapter 2149. Yuqian's expression changed when she heard Lu Yin's words. Was he thinking about the Yo secret symbol? Daozi, the Yo secret symbol is only passed down in the Yu family, and it can't be obtained without the bloodline of the Yu family. This. Yuqian wanted to say something, but Lu Yin stopped her. I know that if I wanted it, you wouldn't have been able to protect it 20 years ago. Let her in. Yuqian nodded helplessly and left the main hall. Not only did she inform Yo Year to enter, but she also contacted Elder Yu and Yu Kurson to discuss the situation. Lu Yin knew that the Yu family was afraid, and they were like meat on a chopping board that he could slaughter. Actually, Lu Yin wasn't thinking about the Yo secret symbol. He just wanted to see if Big Sis would react to it. Sis, how do you feel about these people? Lu Yin asked. Big Sis was very serious. 2 of them are very suitable for you, but one of them is only about 10 years old. Of course, age isn't an issue for us. As long as you like them, they're all yours. Hurry up and start a family. Lu Yin was speechless. He thought that Big Sis had discovered something. Sis, I want to ask if you can sense anything from the Yu family through your bloodline. No, Big Sis replied bluntly. Lu Yin wasn't surprised, as bloodline sensing was a bit mysterious. She might have sensed something from the first generation of descendants, but how many generations had it been? Her bloodline had long since been diluted. Based on your conversation with Fate's daughter, what are they hiding within their bodies? How should I find them? Big Sis asked. Lu Yin replied, let nature take its course. It's not that easy to find them, and I want to know if the Yu family knows anything themselves. He then recalled the reason why Yuqian had left the Yu family. She had said that a pair of eyes had been watching the Yu family, but they couldn't find the source. After so many years of fear, they had no choice but to leave. Was this pair of eyes related to the things within their bodies? Not long after, Yuqian brought Yo Year in. Her expression was calm, and it was clear that she had come to a conclusion. Yo Year looked at Lu Yin and said, Brother Lu. She looked sweet and Big Sis liked her. She slapped her thigh. She's the one. She's young, it's fine. Just wait a few years. Yuqian and the others could not understand what Big Sister was saying. Was she crazy? Lu Yin ignored her and smiled. You can return to your original state just like how you participated in the Dao Disciple competition. Yo Year bitterly smiled. It's a pity that I don't even have a sense of existence. I was easily eliminated. With that said, her body began to move despite the lack of wind as her body gradually grew larger. Big Sister opened her mouth wide. There was such a thing. When Yo Year's body recovered, her temperament was no longer as sweet as a little girl's. Instead, it was cold and serene. Paired with her black dress, she was like a blooming black datura flower. She was both beautiful and thorny. Lu Yin was stunned once again, and his eyes lit up as he looked at Yo Year. Yuqian had been observing Lu Yin the entire time, and she noticed that he was looking at Yo Year with admiration. Did he like Yo Year? If that was the case, it would be for the best. Lu Yin stared at Yo Year, and both Yo Year and Yuqian stared at Lu Yin. None of them noticed that the moment Yo Year released the Yo secret symbol, Big Sis's eyes had become lifeless. Under those lifeless eyes, an indescribable emotion appeared, as if another person had been waiting for something to appear for countless years. She suddenly raised her hand, and before anyone could react, her hand pressed down on Yo Year's chest. On her forehead. No one had expected Big Sis to suddenly do this, and even Lu Yin was unable to react in time. Big Sis's speed was too fast to the point of being inconceivable. The moment Big Sis's finger touched Yo Ye's forehead, Yo Ye's body trembled. As Big Sis slowly withdrew her hand, a visible yet intangible energy was extracted from Yo Ye's body and flowed through Big Sis's finger. Yu Qian was shocked and she immediately attacked Big Sis, no longer caring about Lu Yin. However, she was unable to shake Big Sis with her strength. Big Sis was someone who could fight against Sky Jilan, and her cultivation was similar to Yu Qian's. However, she was much stronger than Yu Qian, and she could even fight against a cultivator with 3 origin tribulations. There was a thump and Yu Qian was forced back. Big Sis was still extracting that formless energy from Yo Ye's body. At that moment, Yu Kersen and Yu Run broke through the void and attacked Big Sis. Their strength was not comparable to Yu Qian's, so they could not even get close to her. Elder Yu walked out, stepping on the river sticks as he reached out to grab Big Sis. Stop. Lu Yin blocked in front of Elder Yu and flicked his finger, causing a gust of wind to push Elder Yu back. A huge force tore through the void, causing the entire Yu family to tremble. Elder Yu did not dare to attack Lu Yin and he was forced back several steps. Dozi, what is the meaning of this? Lu Yin turned back to look at Big Sis, and it just so happened that the formless energy had been completely extracted. Yo Ye's body fell to the ground while Big Sis stood in place. Her gaze was incomparably deep as a dark energy surged out of her body and swept out in all directions. It swept past the solar system, the frost wave weave, and the entire outerverse. Many people felt that this dark energy was suppressing them to the point that they could not breathe. In the above heaven, Lu Bujing looked up at the Yu family. What a familiar energy. He took a step forward. In another direction, Fate Girl looked over. Is she slowly recovering? The main hall of the Yu family had already been destroyed, and Big Sis's body changed once again. Sometimes she was male, sometimes she was female, sometimes she was as young as a child, and sometimes she was as old as an old woman. The only thing that did not change was that the dark energy continued to surge. 3 origin tribulations, 4 origin tribulations, 5 origin tribulations, and finally 6 origin tribulations. Her power level had broken past 1 million. Lu Yin was shocked. This power level had increased too quickly. Was this the Netherworld progenitor's power level? Across from him, Elder Yu was shocked. This energy. Wasn't this the power of the Yo secret symbol? He could not be wrong. This energy was definitely the Yo secret symbol. Only the Yo secret symbol could possess such a dark and profound energy. It was evil and dark, and it was clearly strange, but it was also filled with tyranny. When Big Sis reached 6 origin tribulations, her appearance stabilized, and she became a woman with a cold expression and purple eyes. She was not extremely beautiful, but she was filled with a heroic spirit. Her eyes flickered with purple light, making her seem even more domineering. Her body occasionally flickered with a dark purple radiance, making her seem dreamy. Her eyes also changed, becoming abnormally cold. Lu Yin watched in amazement. Looking at Big Sis now was like looking at the fog ancestor for the first time. That imposing aura was exactly the same. At that moment, the fog ancestor walked out and was shocked. It really is the Netherworld progenitor. You have the aura of a progenitor. The Netherworld progenitor? Elder Yu, Yu Qian, and Yu Kersen all cried out in shock and looked at the fog ancestor in disbelief. The fog ancestor spoke before disappearing. Lu Yin ignored them and just stared at Big Sis. He tried calling out, "Sis?" The main hall was silent. Outside, a group of Yu family cultivators had surrounded the area, but none of them dared to enter. Outside, Lu Bujing and Fate's daughter had arrived. The two looked at each other. This is the power of the Netherworld progenitor. I've sensed it from afar before. Fate's daughter was still within the white cloud and she coldly said, "Before searching for destiny, you were looking for the Netherworld progenitor, right?" Lu Bujing did not retort. Indeed, after he had cultivated the ancestral chi of the 3 sons, the first thing he had manifested was a progenitor realm beast from the Lu family's collection. The second was obtained from an exchange with another human ancestor, and the third was something that the ancestor had specifically asked him to wait and find the best one for him. At that time, Lu Yin had been considering the Netherworld progenitor, and he had searched for the Netherworld progenitor and felt its power. Who would have thought that the ancestor would actually bring him to destiny and allow him to steal a strand of it? Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that the ancestor would be so ruthless as to directly target destiny. Destiny was not something that the Netherworld progenitor could compare to, but Lu Yin would rather manifest the Netherworld progenitor. Destiny was too illusory and it was not something that he could use as he wished. Furthermore, after stealing Destiny, he had been constantly provoked by the Destiny disciples and hunted down by Fate's daughter. It had been very painful. Let's not talk about the past. How long has it been? Even the ancestor is gone, Lu Bujing said awkwardly. Fate's daughter looked at the river Styx again. He was only at 6 origin tribulations, so he was still far from reaching the peak of the Netherworld progenitor realm. In the main hall of the Yu family, Lu Yin carefully called out, "Sis?" Everyone stared at Big Sis. Elder Yu and the others felt a pressure that came from the depths of their souls, and that dignity made them want to worship her. After a while, Big Sis finally moved. She looked at Lu Yin with her purple eyes. "This girl is not bad and I like her appearance. Let's find some time to settle this matter." Lu Yin was stunned. Elder Yu and the others were stunned as well. What did she mean? "Sis, you haven't changed?" Lu Yin was at a loss. Big Sis's aura had grown so much that it was obvious that she had regained the Netherworld progenitor's strength. But why did she still sound like a pirate? Big Sis snorted and reached out to touch the giant hammer that had been placed to the side. Elder Yu and the others trembled, thinking that she was about to attack. The hammer melted and turned into a beam of light that shot past Lu Yin and the others. It pierced through the void and stopped outside, surrounding one of the Yu family's cultivators. The dark beam of light turned into a cage that trapped that person. That person's face was filled with panic as he looked around nervously. Lu Yin looked over and heard Big Sis's voice. "Little Seven, aren't you looking for undying Yushan?" "It's him." Save me. Elder, save me." That person cried out in fear. Elder Yu and the others looked at Big Sis, not knowing what to say. The Fog ancestor had just called him the Netherworld progenitor, which had shocked them. Was this person really the Netherworld progenitor? That was impossible. They were certain that the Netherworld progenitor existed, but too much time had passed. Unless he had been frozen and awakened like the 12 Elysium sect masters, how could he still be alive? Lu Yin looked at the trapped person and his fear was not fake. He couldn't help but look at Big Sis. "Big Sis, is he undying Yushan?" Big Sis sneered. "The evil scripture. Face change. It's a disguise technique that I obtained from talking to the Grim Reaper. It can completely change a person's appearance and it's impossible to tell just by looking. Why, undying Yushan, are you still hiding?" "Thank you. Tunyandru, I can't sleep. Thanks for your tips, I'll update more tomorrow." "Thank you." Chapter 2150. Lu Yin's face sank. Others might not understand but he did. This was a disguise technique from the demonic scripture that was similar to Death Mask. It was something that the Netherworld ancestor had learned from his conversation with the Death God. No wonder. Within the beam of light, the panicked person heard the words demonic scripture disguise, and his face sank. It was as if he had changed into a different person. He slapped at the beams of light around him, and his strength reached the level of a 4th tribulation cultivator. The surrounding Yu family members were stunned. Unfortunately, even a 4th tribulation cultivator could not destroy these beams of light. This was Big Sis, a 6th tribulation cultivator, and such a battle technique had never been seen before. Either she had regained the Netherworld ancestor's strength, or she had used the Yo secret art. The person's attacks were ineffective and he waved his hand. Lu Yin's eyes went wide. The Yo secret art. The beam of light disappeared and the person stepped forward, attempting to tear through the void and escape. Lu Yin was about to attack. Big Sis shouted, "You want to escape from me with my strength? How laughable." The person spat out a mouthful of blood as his body changed. His appearance changed into someone that Lu Yin was extremely familiar with. Undying Yushan. Big Sis had found Undying Yushan, who no one had been able to find. Undying Yushan gloomily looked at Big Sis and growled, "Who are you?" Big Sis sneered as beams of dark light pierced through Undying Yushan's body. Each beam heavily injured him, causing blood to splatter everywhere. Finally, Undying Yushan fell to one knee, his pupils dilating as he panted heavily. He was not weak and he had been hiding all this time. He could even use the battle techniques from the demonic scripture, and he was confident that he could fight against a 5th or 6th tribulation cultivator. Escaping would not be a problem. However, he was completely helpless against Big Sis. He could not use any of his battle techniques and it was as if he had been locked down. And this was just Big Sis. There were still the Yu family's elders and the most terrifying Lu Yin beside her. Undying Yushan had always been paying attention to the outside world in the Yu family, especially since he was so close to the above heaven. He knew that Lu Yin had extraordinary power, and the strength that he had displayed during the Dao disciple competition was not something that Undying Yushan could contend against. He had also seen Lu Yin kill Wang Si during the sect's founding ceremony. Undying Yushan knew that he was far inferior to Wang Si, and there was no way that he could escape from Lu Yin. However, he was confident that no one would be able to find him. He never expected that he would be found in the end. There was no warning at all and there was no time to escape. A silhouette appeared in front of him looking down at him from above. Undying Yushan raised his head and saw Lu Yin standing in front of him. Lu Yin looked at Undying Yushan with a complicated expression. "We meet again, Your Majesty. It's been hard looking for you." Undying Yushan coughed up a mouthful of blood and smiled bitterly. "I've let you do as you please for too long. If I'd known, I would have taken control of you when you were a hunter or cruiser. At that time you definitely wouldn't have been able to resist." Undying scripture? Lu Yin had a strange look in his eyes. Undying Yushan slowly stood up, his body swaying as he looked past Lu Yin towards Big Sis. "I just want to know who she is. Not only did he see through me but he even sealed my power. It's like he was born to suppress me. If she can't restrain you, then no one in history will be able to restrain you." Lu Yin chuckled, finding this statement hilarious. "But if she can't restrain you then no one in history can." Undying Yushan's eyes narrowed. "The Netherworld ancestor?" Lu Yin raised his brows, but Undying Yushan reacted quickly. "You're really smart. Normal people wouldn't be able to guess. Even if I told them who I was, they wouldn't believe me." Undying Yushan stared blankly at Big Sis. Big Sis, on the other hand, stared at him coldly with disdain. "It's not unjust. It's not unjust that the Netherworld ancestor personally took action." Undying Yushan smiled bitterly. His body had been pierced and his astral energy vortex had been pierced. Lu Yin waved his hand and had everyone from the Yu family retreat, leaving only the few of them behind. "We can talk now, Your Majesty." Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back and stared at Undying Yushan. He had too many questions. They hadn't even spoken much during their last meeting in the Eternal Kingdom. Undying Yushan sighed. "Don't call me Your Majesty. The Great Yu Empire never had a king Zishan." Lu Yin didn't understand. "What do you mean?" Undying Yushan laughed and looked at Lu Yin. "I was the founder of the Great Yu Empire and everything was established by the Yu family. Then where did this Zishan bloodline come from? The so-called King Zishan was just a chess piece under my control. The Undying Duo was just a cover." "So you knew from the start that I pretended to be King Zishan's descendant?" Lu Yin was shocked. "Of course." Undying Yushan laughed. "Why did you tolerate me?" Big Sis was puzzled. They had planned for Lu Yin to fake his identity as King Zishan's descendant so that he could smoothly advance and step onto the path of cultivation. She hadn't expected that such a path had never existed from the start. Undying Yushan's body swayed once more as fresh blood flowed from his abdomen. Lu Yin waved his hand and a chair appeared behind him. Undying Yushan did not stand on ceremony and sat down. He looked at Big Sis and laughed. "It's an honor to be able to sit in front of the Netherworld ancestor. Why did you tolerate my existence? Not only did he give me resources, but he even gave me the Yu secret art in the end. Why is that?" Lu Yin asked. He did not believe that Undying Yushan had foreseen that he would reach this level in the future. If that was the case then he was not Undying Yushan but fate. Undying Yushan's face paled significantly and he looked visibly aged. It was just a show for everyone to see. The Yu secret art was the finishing touch of this show. If I don't teach you the Yu secret art, how can others be sure that I'm dead? I faked my death so that I could find some things and cooperate with the Eternals to find more puppets. Undying Yushan looked up at Lu Yin with a twinkle in his eyes. I just didn't expect you to improve so quickly. In just 20 years, you've unified the inner verse and outer verse and become the most powerful person in the fifth mainland. Back then He Wuxian looked for you, right? You became more and more valuable. From then on, you became my greatest value because I could control you. To be honest, I would have never thought that an actress would become my greatest value. Lu Yin stared at him. What about Wendy? She's an entertainer too? Undying Yushan laughed. He's my daughter. She can reach the same heights as me in the future. I won't mistreat her. But you didn't care about her feelings at all. Your death was a huge blow to her, Lu Yin couldn't help but say. He thought back to what Wendy Yushan had once said. He was her only family in this world. She had said it very calmly, but Lu Yin knew that her heart had been twisted by a knife. Undying Yushan shook his head. Love, countless billions of years have passed in the blink of an eye. How many geniuses have been born in such a long time? What value can a mere bit of kinship have? There was no regret in Undying Yushan's eyes, but Lu Yin did not intend to talk to him about this. What's with the life and death manual? Undying Yushan looked at Big Sis. Doesn't the Netherworld ancestor know? Big Sis snorted. I don't know. Undying Yushan was astonished. You're the creator of the Undying Manual, so you don't know? Lu Yin looked at Undying Yushan. I'm asking you, Undying Yushan. Undying Yushan retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Yin. I can tell you, but I can also choose not to. Give me a reason why I must tell you. I'm curious, Lu Yin said. Undying Yushan's eyes narrowed. Just curious? That's right. You don't want to train? Undying Yushan was astonished. The Netherworld ancestor's inheritance was attractive to anyone. Lu Yin's lips curled up. What do you think of the Grim Reaper compared to the Netherworld ancestor? Undying Yushan was stunned and had a complicated expression. Yes, the Grim Reaper is of a higher level than the Netherworld ancestor. You've obtained the Grim Reaper's power and are a direct descendant of the Lu family in the Three Realms. Why would you care about the Undying Manual? I'm overthinking things. What do you mean, little seven? Are you looking down on me? Big Sis stared at Lu Yin's back, her gaze filled with danger. Lu Yin was stunned. Crap, he had forgotten that the Netherworld ancestor was still here. He stiffly turned around and laughed dryly. Don't listen to his nonsense, Big Sis. What I meant was that the Grim Reaper is on the same level as you. I have the Grim Reaper's power, so it would be fine if I trained in the Evil Manual. The Undying Manual is just a chapter of the Evil Manual, so it's not attractive. I'm definitely not looking down on you. Big Sis stared at him and then looked at Undying Yushan. Are you training in the Evil Manual or the Undying Manual? Undying Yushan replied, the Undying Manual. But you've been possessed by the Evil Manual. Big Sis shouted. Lu Yin looked at Undying Yushan. Possessed by the Evil Manual? Undying Yushan's expression didn't change at all. Looks like you really are the Netherworld ancestor to be able to see through the Evil Manual. Not bad, I was just an ordinary descendant of the Yu family from the start. If not for the Evil Manual, I wouldn't have cultivated the Undying Manual and none of this would have happened. What Evil Manual? Isn't the Evil Manual a technique? Lu Yin asked Big Sis. Big Sis' expression turned ugly. The Evil Manual is a type of power that can be passed down. However, things have changed. Everyone in the Yu family has the power of the Evil Manual growing within them. This Undying Yushan isn't the main body of the Evil Manual. He's just one of its hosts. Elder Yu and the others looked at each other. Was that why they had felt a pair of eyes staring at them? It had nothing to do with Undying Yushan. How old was he? There was still a real host. Lu Yin's heart sank as he looked at Undying Yushan. Undying Yushan coincidentally looked at Lu Yin as well. Disappointed. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. From the moment he had guessed that Undying Yushan wasn't dead, until now, Undying Yushan's shadow had occasionally appeared. Every time it appeared, Lu Yin would try to track down the main body. Now he had finally found Undying Yushan, but he had been nurtured by another power. Thank you. Tianyunjui, thanks for your tip. I'll update at 2 p.m. Chapter 2151. The demonic scripture is a very strange power, the Undying Yushan slowly explained, his eyes filled with madness. He was completely different from the scholarly emperor he had been before. I don't know if this power has a consciousness, but it can subconsciously change a person's thoughts and guide them to do things they shouldn't have done before. It can even make them subconsciously search for something. I've been searching the Frostwave Weave for many years. The Great Yu Empire was founded because of the demonic scripture, but I couldn't find anything. In order to attract attention, I purposely controlled Undying Zishan, a Kue Luo, to go to the Starfall Sea and lie about finding the Undying scripture. All of this was my idea and my doing, but it might have been influenced by the demonic scripture. The undying Yuxian looked at Lu Yin. There are too many strange life forms in the universe. The demonic scripture might have become a life form. You should ask the netherworld ancestor how he created it. How do I know you're not talking about the demonic scripture's influence? Lu Yin asked. The undying Yuxian shook his head. The demonic scripture in my body has been suppressed. I suppressed it. Not just him but everyone in the Yu family has their demonic scriptures suppressed. Otherwise he would be saying something completely different. Lu Yin found it hard to believe. Can a technique really become a life form? Nothing is impossible, Big Sister said. Lu Yin couldn't help but blame her. Sis, why did you create something like that? If a technique becomes a life form, then isn't it like a poison if it spreads? And it can't be destroyed. She raised her brows. Are you blaming me? Lu Yin's mouth twitched. No, I'm just asking. I'm just curious, that's all. She looked at the undying Yuxian. I'm also curious. What is the demonic scripture subconsciously affecting you? Lu Yin continued. You're roaming around Earth. Is that what you're looking for? The undying Yuxian nodded. I can't live anymore, but I'll tell you what I need to. I just hope that you can find the demonic scripture. Ruin my life. His words became clearer and clearer. The demonic scripture had been suppressed and its influence on him had decreased. The current undying Yuxian was the true undying Yuxian. However, he still didn't mention Wendy Yuxian. In his heart, revenge was more important than his own daughter. Taking revenge on a cultivation technique sounded absurd and laughable, but now anyone who heard undying Yuxian's words did not find it laughable. This cultivation technique could very well become a malignant tumor. I don't know when, but it might have been when the evil scripture entered my body or when I became an explorer, but a desire to find something appeared in my mind. This desire grew like an addiction and it crazily took over my mind. I couldn't wait to leave the great Yu Empire and frantically search the entire Frostwave Weave just to find that thing. I don't know where those things came from or what they're used for. I only know that I have to find them even if I have to die, undying Yuxian said. His voice grew louder and louder as if his thoughts were no longer under his control. Lu Yin looked at Big Sis. Big Sis shook her head. Just listen. He can't control himself anymore. Although I've suppressed the demonic sutra, what I just mentioned has awakened the demonic sutra's control over him. Listen to as much as you can. He's about to end. Lu Yin looked at undying Yuxian with a complicated expression. Undying Yuxian's eyes were unfocused, and he kept talking about how he was searching for something. North Castle Weave, Dark Mist Weave and Grand Top Weave. I controlled more than 10,000 people to search planet by planet, but I couldn't find it. The more I couldn't find it, the more I had to search. My strength alone was limited, so I had to get everyone to help. I exposed the Undying Sutra and attracted many powerful clans from the universe. I used their resources to search for anything unusual in Frostwave Weave. Finally one day, Undying Yuxian suddenly looked at Lu Yin. You came with information about Earth. That small planet has an unusual history, but its history is actually fake. It was made up by the historians. Every once in a while Earth's civilization would go extinct. There were the most primeval surnames there and many cultivators with innate gifts were born there. There was also a hidden organization called the Hidden Earth. None of these things should have happened on that small planet, so I focused my attention on Earth. But I still couldn't find it. However, Earth is the most hopeful. It should be there. It has to be there. What are you looking for? Lu Yin's sudden shout startled everyone. Undying Yuxian blurted out, 3 things. There's a sword, a bead, and I don't know what the last one is. He spat out a mouthful of blood and the madness in his eyes faded away. His eyes were clear but they were dim. It was obvious that he wasn't far from death. Lu Yin frowned. Sword, bead, Earth. What was so special about Earth? Yes, it was very special, but the most special one was Xianxia. He was about the same age as Lu Yin, but his cultivation was similar to Lu Yin's, and he could accurately travel through parallel space. If not for Xianxia, Lu Yin wouldn't have been able to deal with that mantis beast. Xianxia had only appeared on Earth and he had said that Earth was his home. Lu Yin was sure that the Earth he was talking about was in a parallel universe. If Xianxia had been able to bring that mantis beast back as a pet, then his father's strength had to be quite good. If the 3 things that Undying Yuxian was looking for weren't on Earth, then they might be in their own parallel universe. Of course this was just a guess. The frost wave weave was huge, and if he was looking for something in this part of the void, then it should be in this space. Find the evil scripture and burn it. Burn it. Undying Yushan's eyes grew dimmer, but the malevolence in them didn't lessen at all. Before his death, all he could think about was revenge against the evil scripture. The evil scripture hadn't given him the status he wanted, and he had been controlled by it just like how he had controlled Zhou Xian. This made him hate the evil scripture. Lu Yin's eyes flickered as he looked at the hatred in Undying Yushan's eyes. He bent down and whispered into his ear, "Wendy has an innate gift of time." Undying Yushan's pupils shrank as he stared at Lu Yin in disbelief. The hatred in his eyes faded away, replaced by excitement and hope. An innate gift of time was a unique innate gift. Once it matured, it would be unrivaled in the universe. Really? Lu Yin nodded. Undying Yushan laughed loudly as he coughed up blood. "She'll help me fulfill my wish." Ah. In the end he spat out a mouthful of blood and died. Lu Yin couldn't bear to watch him die. He didn't want Undying Yushan to forget about his own daughter at the end of his life. Wendy was too pitiful, and he didn't want Undying Yushan to be filled with hatred at the end of his life. No matter what Undying Yushan thought, Undying Yushan had still helped Lu Yin and allowed him to smoothly embark on the path of cultivation. This debt of gratitude had to be repaid. The saddest thing in a person's life wasn't revenge, but rather the loss of one's life after taking revenge. Even one's loved ones were gone. Lu Yin wouldn't tell Wendy about this, so he just let her think that Undying Yushan had died a long time ago. Elder Yu gestured to Yu Kursin, who stepped forward to collect Undying Yushan's corpse. "Don't touch it," Big Sis growled. A ball of spiritual force appeared from Undying Yushan's corpse, twisting and twisting as it slowly rose into the air. It looked like a human face, and it even had eyes. It looked exactly like Undying Yushan. "Do you want it, little seven? It can increase your spiritual force by a lot," Big Sis asked. Lu Yin refused. This thing looked like Undying Yushan, and absorbing it would make him feel uncomfortable. Although his spiritual force needed to be strengthened, he had plenty of time. Lu Yingzishan's remnant spiritual force had been normal, but this Undying Yushan had cultivated the Undying Scripture, which allowed him to control their bodies. Lu Yin even suspected that this thing had gained sentience. Undying Yushan had cultivated the Undying Scripture, which allowed him to control a group of people. Lu Yin's body, on the other hand, was the evil Scripture's host, which wasn't his real body. Lu Yin didn't want it, but there were others who wanted it, such as Kue Luo. The old man had arrived when Big Sis had broken through, and he had been watching from outside the Yu family's residence along with Destiny's daughter and Lu Bujing. They had also heard Undying Yushan's words. Kue Luo appeared when he saw the spiritual force floating out of Undying Yushan's corpse. He reached out and grabbed it. "You may dislike it, but I don't." He laughed strangely as he absorbed Undying Yushan's spiritual force. Lu Yin felt uncomfortable. "Sis, he's not being controlled by the Undying Scripture, is he?" Big Sis rolled her eyes. "I already asked you if you wanted it. Would it harm you?" Lu Yin thought about it and agreed. Kue Luo sneered. "Kid, who are you looking down on? Don't forget that I've also cultivated the primogenitor's scripture." Lu Yin suddenly remembered that this old man's spiritual force was so powerful that he could dominate the astral tree realm and even rival the leaders of the 12 Elysium gates. It was all because he had cultivated the primogenitor's scripture. When Lu Yin had cultivated the primogenitor's scripture, he hadn't been afraid of Undying Yushan's control. Speaking of which, I've never heard of a technique that can control people. Kue Luo looked at Big Sis. This was the Netherworld ancestor, a living ancient powerhouse. He then looked at Lu Yin. This kid still had the fog ancestor in his mirror. Why were there so many progenitors? And they were all ruthless characters? He felt like he wouldn't be able to survive for long, and he needed to change his methods. Otherwise, he might not even be able to survive on the 5th mainland. Kue Luo left, and so did Lu Bujing and Destiny's daughter. Lu Yin burned Undying Yushan's corpse while Big Sis destroyed the evil scripture within the Yu family's cultivators. Only then did the Yu family members speak. Elder Yu looked at Big Sis respectfully. Are you the Netherworld ancestor?" They hadn't believed it at first, but after experiencing Undying Yushan's situation, they started to believe it. If she wasn't the Netherworld ancestor, Then how could she have taken the Yu secret and increased her cultivation? How could she have controlled undying Yushan? Big Sis grunted in acknowledgement. Her current appearance should be that of the Netherworld ancestor. You aren't my descendants. Elder Yu and the rest were stunned. Yu Qian couldn't help but say, we are the Netherworld ancestors' descendants. Big Sis replied, although I don't have the Netherworld ancestors' memories and have been reborn, I'm certain that I have no descendants. I don't know what happened to you or how you were able to inherit the Yu secret, but I have it back. Chapter 2152. Elder Yu and the rest had ugly expressions. They were no longer thinking about whether or not Big Sis was the Netherworld ancestor, but rather that the Yu secret was gone. They had been so focused on the Netherworld ancestor's identity that they had forgotten that the Yu secret that had been passed down through the Yu family for generations was gone, and the person who had taken it didn't even acknowledge them. If you're not our ancestor, then please return the Yu secret to our family, Yu Kursen said coldly as she stared at Big Sis. Yu Qian immediately shouted, Kursen, don't spout nonsense. Yu Kursen fearlessly stared back at Big Sis. Big Sis teased and suddenly raised a hand to touch Yu Kursen's chin. Yu Kursen subconsciously backed away and stared at her warily. Little brat, you're quite bold. What if I don't return it? Big Sis teased. Lu Yin was speechless. She must have learned this pirate style from Leon's Great War. Yu Kursen was furious and her face flushed red. Elder Yu coughed to attract Big Sis's attention. There's no lack of people who have tried to steal our family's secret technique, but those who don't have our bloodline can't inherit it. This is a secret technique that is passed down through bloodline. Whether or not you're the Netherworld ancestor, we all have the same bloodline. Big Sis sneered, so you're blaming me. Lu Yin couldn't stand it any longer. The Yu family had already lowered their attitude and the Yu secret had just been taken away. Lu Yin felt like Big Sis was bullying them. Big Sis, are you sure they're not the Netherworld ancestors' descendants? Big Sis replied, if I say they're not, then they're not. I'm still a virgin, so how could I have descendants? Me too, the Fog ancestor's voice sounded from behind. Lu Yin was speechless. How could she even respond to this? The Fog ancestor looked at the group. The higher one's cultivation, the more they can sense it. If she really has the same bloodline as you, then she should have been able to sense it. You two indeed have different origins. Then how do you explain how she could have stolen the Yu secret? Yu Qian asked. The Fog ancestor replied, a bloodline inheritance is just an inheritance that contains the power of an ancestor. It's on another level, such as the progenitor realm. An even stronger power can suppress it, but that doesn't prove that she has the same bloodline as your family. Senior, you look familiar. Have we met before? Senior, you looked at the Fog ancestor and asked. Ever since he stepped into the Yu family, the Fog ancestor hadn't appeared. Yu Qian and Yu Kursen both looked at the Fog ancestor. He does look familiar. Big Sister sneered, you want to curry favor with him again? He was the Fog ancestor. What, did he want to be the Fog ancestor's descendant? She's still a virgin, don't ruin her reputation. The Mist ancestor deeply agreed. Fog ancestor? Fog ancestor Shiwei? Old Yu exclaimed. The Mist ancestor was astonished. You actually know my name? Elder Yu was excited. It really is the Fog ancestor. Junior greets the Fog ancestor. Greetings, Fog ancestor. Yu Qian and Yu Kursen both knelt down. Big Sister was unhappy. Hey, you guys aren't even this excited when you see your own ancestors. What's the meaning of this? Are you looking down on your ancestors? Lu Yin pursed his lips as he understood what Elder Yu and the others were thinking. The Fog progenitor was one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas from the Daoist Sex era, and there was no need to verify that he had truly existed. However, the Netherworld progenitor was too ancient, and even if he was one of Lu Yin's own ancestors, it still felt unreal. It wasn't just Big Sister who didn't acknowledge them. Even they didn't dare to believe that the Netherworld progenitor existed. It was just like how the shock of seeing Elder Chan in a video could not compare to the shock of seeing the World Mountains Chief in real life. However, it felt like a dream. How do you guys know me? The Mist ancestor was puzzled. Elder Yu looked up excitedly. My Yu family has a portrait of you, senior Fog ancestor. The Mist ancestor was shocked. You have a portrait? Let me see. Elder Yu was embarrassed. The portrait was damaged when the family moved. The Mist ancestor rolled his eyes. Who drew it? Your Yu family's ancestor? Lu Yin asked. Elder Yu replied, yes, her name is Yu Xiaojing. Yu Xiaojing? Lu Yin looked at the mist ancestor. They had just talked about her not too long ago. The mist ancestor nodded. So it was her. Why did she draw my portrait? Elder Yu replied, we don't know, but the portrait has always been preserved. If the Eternals hadn't invaded and forced our entire family to move to the Glory Realm, many things wouldn't have been damaged. Later on, Progenitor Chen's tomb was occupied by the three Ultimates Heaven's Gate. That woman probably drew my portrait for no good reason, the mist ancestor muttered to himself. Yu Kursin looked at the mist ancestor with a pleading gaze. Senior, please help my Yu family out of respect for Progenitor Xiaojing. Big sister raised a brow. The mist ancestor looked at big sister and then back at Yu Kursin. She should be the netherworld progenitor, but she's right. You guys don't share the same bloodline. This is between you two and I can't interfere. Elder Yu's expression turned ugly and he couldn't help but look at Lu Yin. Lu Yin felt embarrassed. The Yu family had warmly welcomed him, but he had first snatched the Yu family's secret symbol. Now big sister didn't acknowledge these descendants, which made it seem like he had come specifically to bully the Yu family. You guys leave first. We have something to say, Lu Yin said. Yu Kursin looked at big sister unwillingly. Big sister's lips curled up and she hooked her finger at Yu Kursin. What an interesting girl. Let me tell you something. Marry this brat and we'll be family. Who cares if we share the same bloodline? Yu Kursin was furious. Elder Yu was helpless and he left with Yu Kursin and the unconscious Yo-Year. Times were different now and the seven courts no longer dominated the Neoverse southern border. Even if the seven courts had still been around, they still couldn't compare to Lu Yin, and even Xiaji had been imprisoned. They were now living under someone else's roof. After the Yu family members left, Lu Yin looked at Big Sister helplessly. Big Sister, even if we don't share the same bloodline, can't you be more tactful with your words? You took the Yu family's secret technique and it was passed down through their entire family. Big Sister didn't care. It's best if you make things clear. Don't blame me when the time comes. Then have you thought about why they were able to inherit the Yu secret symbol? Perhaps their ancestor was someone you trusted the most, or perhaps even a disciple. That's why they were able to inherit the Yu secret symbol. It's also possible that the disciple betrayed master and stole the Yu secret symbol, the mist ancestor added. Lu Yin pursed his lips. He wasn't helping the Yu family, but these people looked like widows and orphans. Elder Yu wouldn't be able to live for much longer and he was a little pitiful. Furthermore, he was also considered one of Lu Yin's people. Back then, the seven courts should have been a colossus, but they had always been watched by a pair of eyes. That was the power of the evil scripture. Now that that power had been removed, the Yu secret symbol was also gone. They had been unlucky from start to finish. Little Seven, do you feel that the Yu family is pitiful? Or have you taken a fancy to some girl? How about this? Take away whoever you like and I'll admit that they're my descendants. Since they're my descendants, they'll have to listen to me. Let alone one, I can even give you all of the Yu family's women. They'll all be yours, Big Sister suddenly teased. The mist ancestor was interested. He looked at Lu Yin with interest. Lu Yin was speechless as he was often at a loss for words in front of Big Sister. Big Sister, I'll take care of this myself. It's been so many years but I haven't raised a boy. Let me tell you, the captain has been thinking about you. He said that if you can't wait, he'll personally help you and order all the pirates in the universe to help you find a girl you like. Lu Yin blinked. How could something like that happen? Finding a girl is a good thing and I'll help. The mist ancestor smiled. Lu Yin waved his hand. Alright, let's cut the crap. He then looked at Big Sister seriously. Big Sister, have you recovered a portion of the Netherworld Ancestor's power, or have you become the Netherworld Ancestor? Do you have any memories of the Netherworld Ancestor? At this point, Big Sister also became serious. After absorbing the Yu secret symbol, I indeed seem to have become a different person. Now this body's condition has stabilized and there won't be any changes. Although I don't have the Netherworld Ancestor's memories, I naturally understand many things. For example, the Yu family isn't my descendant, and the evil scripture has entered my body. So you're both the Netherworld Ancestor and not the Netherworld Ancestor, the mist ancestor muttered. Big Sister nodded. Lu Yin felt that it was a pity. I wanted to know more about the Netherworld Ancestor and see what happened during that era. What a pity. Big Sister suddenly said. Although I don't have any memories, there are 2 words in my mind that are very, very deep. They're so deep that I'll remember them even if I turn into ashes. Lu Yin and the Mist Ancestor stared at her. Big Sister solemnly said, "Primeval." Lu Yin was confused. "Primeval? Primeval city," the Mist Ancestor answered with a solemn expression. Lu Yin recalled that Mr. Mu had mentioned Primeval City before. He had said that Lu Yin was the disciple that Mr. Mu was most satisfied with, and that he might be able to enter Primeval City one day and stand shoulder to shoulder with some others. "What's Primeval City?" Lu Yin asked. Big Sister didn't understand. "I only remember the words primeval, but I don't know anything about Primeval City. I don't have any recollection of those words." The Mist Ancestor recalled, "The first time I heard about Primeval City was from Senior Lu Tianyi, but he only mentioned those 3 words and didn't say anything else. At that time I was still a half-ancestor, and when I became an ancestor and became one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas, the second time I heard about Primeval City was from Old Fu." "Old Fu?" Lu Yin asked. The Mist Ancestor nodded. "Old Fu said that we might meet again in Primeval City one day and then he left. I asked him but he didn't say anything. Later on I asked the others including Xia Shang and Kujia, but they didn't say anything either, but they should know. As for Wang Fan by Wang Yuan and even Huiwen, I asked them, but they didn't seem to know anything. The last time I heard about Primeval City was from that Eternal Corpse King that I tortured to death." The Mist Ancestor's expression became much more solemn. "Actually, I was curious about Primeval City, but I didn't pay it much attention. They didn't say anything, so I didn't ask. What really made me think about Primeval City was that Corpse King. Before he died he said something." The Mist Ancestor had a complicated expression. "You're lucky that you don't have to go to Primeval City." Those were his last words. Lu Yin was curious. "Is Primeval City a city?" The Mist Ancestor shook her head as she didn't know either. "From its name it should be a city." "Thank you. Tianyan Zhou Brothers tip, I'll give it to you, thank you. The wedding photoshoot is about to begin, and the company has a new mission. I'm too busy." Continuous rotation. Chapter 2153. How come even you don't know about it? Lu Yin found it strange. The Mist Ancestor was one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas and should stand at the peak of the human race, but even she didn't know about it. Those fellows are all so secretive. Who knows what they're thinking? I'm not the only one who doesn't know. Wang Fan by Wang Yuan and Huiwen definitely don't know. Are you sure? Lu Yin didn't believe it. Not just anyone could see through the Hui Ancestor's wisdom. The Mist Ancestor looked at Lu Yin. Are you doubting my ability to see through people? No, Lu Yin hurriedly replied. With Senior's ability to see through people, not even the primogenitor can escape your eyes. How could I doubt you? I just don't understand. The Mist Ancestor loved being praised, and the more vicious the better. Hold on, these 2 women in front of him weren't easy to deal with. One was like a pirate and the other needed to be praised. The Netherworld Ancestor left behind the words primordial in his memories, and I've heard of it 3 times. It seems like that place isn't simple. If Xia Shang and the others aren't dead, then they might be there, the Mist Ancestor guessed. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Seemed like he would have to roll enhance when he got back. With his current strength he could fuse with cultivators with at least 6 tribulations, so he would know more. However, it was unlikely that someone with 6 tribulations would know about Primordial City. Even the Mist Ancestor didn't know about it. I'm leaving, Big Sis said. Lu Yin asked, Where are you going, Big Sis? Back to the Buttian sect? To find the evil scripture, Big Sis said in a low voice. Lu Yin frowned. Can you find it? Big Sis replied, Nonsense, I can sense people with the evil scripture within a certain range. I'll find it one day. It won't be dangerous, right? Lu Yin was worried. Big Sis waved a hand. It's a technique that I created. How can it be so dangerous? Alright, don't worry about this. I'll deal with it myself. It's just a technique. But it can control people. No one below the half-ancestor level can do anything to me. Which half-ancestor would dare to attack me? Don't worry. She then left. Her first destination was Earth, where undying Yushan had once roamed. Big Sis had already left and Lu Yin still needed to pacify the Yu family. He couldn't just take the Yu family's secret and run away. Even though the Yu word belonged to the Netherworld Ancestor, The Yu family had also been passed down for many years. Leaving without any contributions or hard work would not be good for the Yu family, and it would be even worse for Lu Yin's reputation. Fate's daughter and the Star Sibyl sect had not joined him so he could make use of them. However, the Yu family was different. They had joined him so he had to make up for them. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Lu Yin thought about the Yu's secret art and planned secret art that he had grasped, but he couldn't casually pass them on to the Yu family. As for his other battle techniques, the reverse step secret art might be good, but it was far less valuable to the Yu family than the Yu secret art. Are you thinking about how to appease the Yu family? Asked the Mist Ancestor. Lu Yin nodded and then smiled bitterly. The Yu family only came here from the Neoverse because of me. Since Big Sis took the Yo secret away, I can't just leave them be. You can teach them the micro-incantation, said the Fog Ancestor. Lu Yin looked at the Mist Ancestor in shock. Senior is willing to teach them the micro-incantation? The Mist Ancestor looked outside. After all, they are the descendants of an old friend and I don't have a successor. It's better to leave some of my power behind. Old Fu Xiaoxiang and the others all left behind their power, so I can't keep it to myself. Aside from the micro-incantation, I can also teach them the smoke cloud incarnation. I can also teach them the confusion technique. Lu Yin was delighted. Thank you, Senior. The Mist Ancestor laughed. In their hearts, these things aren't as valuable as the Yo secret art. No, in their hearts, rather than guarding the Yo secret art, it's better to rely on the 9 mountains and 8 seas, Lu Yin said. Just as he had said, when they heard that the Mist Ancestor was willing to pass on his power to them, everyone from the Yu family immediately knelt down in gratitude. If not for the Mist Ancestor's reluctance, they would have taken him as their master. The Yo secret art wasn't that valuable to them, and it wasn't as important as the inheritance from the 9 mountains and 8 seas. Of course they were disappointed. After all, the inheritance had been passed down for so many years, and it was the Yu family's symbol. I'm only teaching you because of that portrait. After all, I'm acquainted with you, Xiaojing, and we can be considered old friends. I hope that you can pass on my power and not disappoint me, the Mist Ancestor said. Everyone from the Yu family bowed once more. Elder Yu was so excited that his injuries worsened. He saw hope for the Yu family's revival. Although the Yo secret art was gone, it hadn't been of much help to the Yu family over the years. Even though they had obtained some battle techniques from it, that was all they could do. How could it compare to a true inheritance from the 9 mountains and 8 seas? Senior, this junior has always been curious. What exactly are these secret arts? Lu Yin asked. The Mist Ancestor thought for a moment. When you reach the progenitor realm, your body will have a strange resonance with the universe. You can use your own strength to cater to the universe and create some unimaginable techniques. These are secret arts, but they aren't very useful in a battle between progenitors. Most of them are created for their descendants or disciples to cultivate, and they can be considered life-saving measures. Lu Yin didn't understand, but he didn't dwell on it. Forget about progenitors, even half-ancestors rarely use secret arts in a battle. These kinds of techniques were more useful when one was weak. As one's cultivation increased, the mystical effects of secret arts would gradually weaken, and they would no longer have the ability to turn something rotten into something magical. The excitement he had felt when he had obtained the Yu secret art had already disappeared. Even though the Mist Ancestor had said that he would inherit the Mistlock bewilderment technique, it didn't interest Lu Yin that much. The Mist Ancestor had only passed down his power to the Yu family for a day, and he had left behind the jade stone containing the minute drawing technique and the secret arts before leaving. Before he left, Elder Yu had sought out Lu Yin and asked him to pay attention to Big Sis. They still didn't believe that they weren't the Netherworld ancestors' descendants, and they would rather believe that Big Sis wasn't the Netherworld ancestor. Whether or not I'm the Netherworld ancestor's descendant isn't that important. Although a family's inheritance is good, some people have to start from scratch to reach their current position. Dry Tree's path was very difficult, and so was I. I don't have a family's inheritance, the Mist Ancestor said from outer space. Lu Yin held the mirror. They no longer hope to obtain anything from the Netherworld ancestor, but they also don't wish to deny his persistence. It's meaningless, the Mist Ancestor said. Lu Yin suddenly thought of something and looked at the Mist Ancestor. Senior, do you have a lot of power vessels in your collection? The Mist Ancestor stared at Lu Yin and narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Lu Yin replied, I'm just asking what level of cultivation this junior used to deal with the mist ancestor. You tossed out the corresponding power vessels, so I'm curious if you have a lot of them. The mist ancestor was about to deny it. Lu Yin continued, with your status you must have a lot of treasures. As someone from the 9 mountains and 8 seas, let alone those half-progenitors and envoys, even progenitors of the same generation would send you gifts. This is especially true for the battle techniques that you inherited. Your comprehension of battle techniques far surpasses that of ordinary people, so there must be many people who seek your help, right? The mist ancestor opened his mouth and coughed. That's right. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Do you have any? Do you have a wisdom root? The mist ancestor was about to deny it. Lu Yin continued, of course you do. In that era even the ancestor of Hui had to give you face. That's right, the mist ancestor replied. Although his attitude was arrogant, he was also reserved. Can you lend me 2 of your wisdom roots? Lu Yin's eyes lit up even more. The mist ancestor was about to refuse. Lu Yin continued, of course you're willing. A senior like you who values the younger generation naturally wouldn't care about 2 mere wisdom roots. The mist ancestor stared at Lu Yin. No. Lu Yin was stunned and blinked. You're not willing? The mist ancestor snorted. Don't try to trick me with words. I'll tell you clearly that I have wisdom roots and more than 2 of them. However, I can't lend them to you and I can't give them to you either. Wisdom roots don't mean much to you, right? Lu Yin smiled. The mist ancestor raised his head. Huiwen might not be good at fighting, but he's good at using his brain. He planted the wisdom roots, and in that era there were too many people who wanted them. I snatched them from him. Snatched from someone else. Lu Yin was stunned. I snatched from Huiwen. I asked him for them, but he wouldn't give them to me. What a joke. I snatched them and left. The mist ancestor was proud, like a child who had broken through a taboo. Lu Yin wasn't interested. Then how many wisdom roots do you have? Someone like you who can snatch from the ancestor of Hui must have a lot of wisdom roots. The mist ancestor's lips curled up. I know you're trying to trick me just like Huiwen. However, I can tell you that I have a lot of wisdom roots. If you have the ability, then come and trade with me. Unfortunately, I don't lack anything. The 2 then returned to the above the sky sect. There Lu Yin lived alone. It was very large and the scenery was extremely beautiful. It was like a world of its own. Zhou Ran was also here and she had planted many flowers. Lu Yin's eyes flashed when he thought of Zhou Ran. Senior, please have some tea. If you have the ability, then trade with me. Other methods are useless to me, the mist ancestor said. And I can't drink it. My true body is still in the mirror. Lu Yin didn't say anything and just sat down. He then shouted, Zhou Ran, make some tea. His Highness is back. I'll be right there. Zhou Ran's happy voice sounded from the flower bed. The mist ancestor looked around. It'll be great when my true body comes out. So comfortable. Lu Yin was thinking about what to trade for the wisdom roots. The mist ancestor didn't lack anything and she just wanted to come out sooner. However, he couldn't help her with this, and even if he could, he wouldn't trade for it. The mist ancestor had been trapped because she had fought against the corpse king of the Eternals, and she had contributed greatly to the human race. After thinking for a long time, Lu Yin still couldn't think of anything good that could be traded for the wisdom roots. At that moment, Zhou Ran arrived with a cup of tea. It was strangely green and Lu Yin stared at it blankly. If he wasn't mistaken, then wasn't the mist on the teacup forming a skull? No matter how he looked at it, it looked like poison. Your Highness, you have a guest? I'll go make another cup. Zhou Ran saw the mist ancestor and hurriedly returned, not even giving Lu Yin the tea. Lu Yin looked at the mist ancestor. The mist ancestor looked at Zhou Ran and rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Is this girl? Why is she here? She's still alive? Senior, you know Zhou Ran? Lu Yin asked. Thank you. Tianyan Zhou brothers tip. I'll update at 2 p.m. Thank you. Chapter 2154. The mist ancestor looked at Lu Yin with a rare look of confusion. She's also called Zhou Ran? Senior, you know her? Lu Yin asked again. The mist ancestor looked at Zhou Ran's departing figure with a complicated expression and muttered to himself. That shouldn't be the case. So much time has passed. Even if she's still alive, why hasn't she changed at all? Could she have been frozen? But she's just a normal person, so she shouldn't have been frozen for so long. Strange, her name and appearance are exactly the same. Right, there's also that cup of tea. Senior. Lu Yin called out. The mist ancestor looked at Lu Yin. Why is she here? Do you know who she is? Lu Yin shook his head. I don't know. She said that she lost her memories and so did I. I took her in out of pity. Why, have you seen her before? The mist ancestor nodded. You might not believe me, but I've seen her in dried up's mountain sea. You don't believe me? How could that be? Lu Yin had seen her in dried up's mountain sea as well. He had thought of Zhou Ran and had brought the mist ancestor to see if they were the same person. How much do you know about her? The mist ancestor asked. Lu Yin shook his head. I don't know much about her. I only know that she's called Zhou Ran and that she often loses her memories. She might even forget what happened the day before, but I don't know anything else. Senior, how much do you know about her? The mist ancestor shook his head. I don't know much either. I just drank her tea when I saw dried up and it left a deep impression on me. Lu Yin was amused. It seems like her tea left a deep impression on you. Nonsense, that tea leaves a deep impression on anyone who drinks it. It's like poison and dried up drinks it every day. I even suspect that he's been poisoned. Silly, the mist ancestor grumbled. He then continued to look in Zhou Ran's direction as if he was thinking about something. Seems like Senior can relive old memories today. Lu Yin smiled. Zhou Ran had arrived in front of them with 2 cups of tea. The steam rising from the teacups resembled skulls. The mist ancestor stared at Zhou Ran as if he wanted to see through her. But no matter how he looked at her, she was just a normal person with nothing special about her. But how had a normal person survived until now? Her appearance hadn't changed at all? At that time he really should have asked Kujia about her background. At that time, who would have paid attention to this girl and only stared at that cup of tea? Thinking of the tea, the mist ancestor looked at the teacup and his eyelids jumped. This was something that only an idiot would drink. Lu Yin took a sip. Not bad. Zhou Ran was very happy. Thank you, Your Highness. The mist ancestor looked at Lu Yin. You're exactly the same as Kujia. You can even drink this. Senior, please drink. Don't hurt her feelings, Lu Yin smiled. The mist ancestor rolled his eyes. Little girl. Only the heavens knew how old this girl was. Looking at her appearance now, perhaps she had lived for a long time when he first saw her at Kujia's place. Zhou Ran, do you still remember me? The fog ancestor asked Zhou Ran. Zhou Ran and the fog ancestor exchanged glances. Zhou Ran blinked in confusion before shaking her head. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot and I've forgotten many things. Have we met before? The mist ancestor was strange. Out of stock? Who scolded her? If we have, can you tell me what happened? Who am I? Zhou Ran looked expectantly at the fog ancestor. The mist ancestor shook his head. I don't know. I just feel that you look familiar. Zhou Ran earnestly begged. If we really have met before and you remember, please tell me. I really want to know who I am, where I came from, and if I have any relatives. Thank you. The mist ancestor nodded. I understand. I'll tell you when I remember. Thank you. Zhou Ran smiled and blinked. The tea is getting cold. The mist ancestor looked at the teacup and saw that the skull's mist was still there. It was definitely poison, definitely poison. She couldn't help but glance at Lu Yin. Crazy. How could he drink something like that? She then disappeared and returned to the mirror. Zhou Ran was confused. Your Highness, where is she? She left. Zhou Ran, you can drink this tea yourself. She doesn't know how to appreciate it, Lu Yin said. Zhou Ran grunted. It'll be a waste if I don't drink it. I spent so much effort on it. Not long after, Zhou Ran left with the empty teacup. The mist ancestor appeared once again. She really doesn't remember me. Senior, I've thought of a way to exchange intelligence roots with you, Lu Yin said. The mist ancestor was interested. Let's hear it. I don't lack anything. Lu Yin thought about it. I remember you saying that you can use Wei's power to create cultivators, right? It's creating astral envoys. Low-level cultivators don't need to be created, the mist ancestor reminded him. Lu Yin replied seriously, then this technique might be suitable for you. It's called the blood refinement technique. What's the blood refinement technique? The mist ancestor was confused. What a strange name. Sounds like it came from an evil scripture. Lu Yin didn't know where it came from, but perhaps it really did come from an evil scripture. He explained the blood refinement technique's functions to the mist ancestor, who fell into deep thought. Wei's power could replace a person's meridians and astral origin cyclones. Perhaps it could even replace a half-step ancestor's inner world one day, but it couldn't replace blood. Wei was just a type of power that couldn't be created out of thin air, just like how the symbol ancestor's true scripture of Eon evolution couldn't create a person out of thin air. No matter how exaggerated the mist ancestor's words were, Wei's power was limited. The blood refinement technique could make up for this weakness to a certain extent, and it might be possible to use it to replace a person's blood and create a true life form. The mist ancestor fell into deep thought, and the more she thought, the more a strange power appeared around her. Lu Yin was enveloped by that power and he saw countless illusions. There were all sorts of scenes, but the one that appeared the most was mist. Could this be what the mist ancestor was thinking about? Lu Yin hurriedly retreated, and his eyes turned into runes as he looked at the mist ancestor. There weren't many rune lines around the mist ancestor, and this should be a battle technique from the mountains and seas. Think. Focus on one's own thoughts, forgetting oneself and forgetting time. To a certain extent, this was similar to an epiphany. Lu Yin had thought that she would take a long time to think, so he had been prepared to leave the mirror behind and take care of other matters. However, it had ended so quickly. We can trade, the mist ancestor said after she left her thoughts and looked at Lu Yin with excitement. Lu Yin was curious. Is the blood refinement technique useful? The mist ancestor nodded. It's very useful. I feel that this technique can help me make up for Wei's weakness, but that will take a long time. I'll have to return to the mirror and think about it myself. I just thought that since this technique can extract an innate gift, then it should be possible to transplant this innate gift into an emissary created by Wei and create a powerhouse with an innate gift. Lu Yin's eyes widened. If it succeeds, then you can create a powerhouse with an innate gift? The mist ancestor nodded. That's right. How likely is it? Lu Yin asked excitedly. The mist ancestor replied, I still have to think about it. How can I see it clearly so quickly? Right, let's trade. I only have Hui Zhen and I'll give them all to you. Only 3. Didn't you say that you had a lot? Lu Yin was dissatisfied. The mist ancestor rolled her eyes. I said that I had more than 2, not a lot. You did. Lu Yin was certain. Go back in time and see. I didn't say anything, the mist ancestor said. Lu Yin wanted to threaten not to hand over the blood refinement technique, but even though that was useful to the mist ancestor, it would be a great loss to him. He still hoped that the mist ancestor could create emissaries to increase the Fifth Mainland's overall power level. Forget it, he would just treat it as an investment. Lu Yin taught the blood refinement technique to the mist ancestor, and the mist ancestor gave him 3 roots of wisdom. The trade was completed. The mist ancestor returned to the mirror to study the blood refinement technique, and she probably wouldn't come out for a while. Lu Yin left the Sky Sect and headed to the Great Yu Empire to look for Wendy Yushan. With the threat of the Eternals removed, many people returned to their original locations. Even the Sword Sect returned to the Shattered Sword Mountain. Only the 7 courts and progenitor Chen's tomb had been occupied by the 3 ultimates, so they had no choice but to stay in the Heavenly Sun system near the Sky Sect. 20 years had passed and Xenu Star hadn't changed much. The war with the Eternals hadn't affected it either. The Great Yu Empire's royal regent was still Lu Yin, even though he had disappeared for 20 years. However, Wendy Yushan was now in charge of the Great Yu Empire. She had changed from a martial arts fanatic who only knew how to cultivate to a qualified manager. Furthermore, with her status she could officially become empress. However, she had yet to ascend to the throne, as she wished to travel the universe with her sword rather than be bound to this place. Wendy Yushan still lived in the 5th princess residence. There were many courtiers waiting outside the residence, but Lu Yin didn't attract any attention when he landed. Uncle, will the princess pursue the matter from back then? A young man dressed in luxurious clothes asked nervously outside the residence as he looked at the old man in front of him. The old man's expression was calm. Are you afraid? The young man's face was pale, but he didn't speak. The old man's tone was calm. If you knew that this day would come, then you wouldn't have done what you did back then. If Lord Pilu found out about what you and your father did, he would be so angry that he would come back to life. The young man's face paled even further. We know that we were in the wrong. Father resigned. Actually, I'm here to resign as well. Not too far away, a voice could be heard intermittently. Lord Pilu passed away, and the princess allowed his son, Pilu, to be promoted out of respect for the old man's loyalty to the empire. Over the past 20 years, Pilu secretly roped in a large group of courtiers and tried to force the princess to marry his son, Pai Exin, while Huan Sha Enya and the others were at Lu Tianmen's gate, and the Great Eastern Alliance was too busy to care about the Great Yu Empire. But now, the royal regent has returned and is above Lu Tianmen. He's now the most powerful person in the Fifth Mainland, and they're afraid. Pilu resigned and his son came to atone for his crimes. If it were up to me, it would be best to capture both father and son. Poor Lord Pilu was upright all his life, and he even dared to reprimand the royal regent. He even rebutted the royal regent, and the royal regent appreciated him. He spent his entire life in the cabinet, but he gave birth to 2 unfilial juniors. That's right. If Lord Pilu was still alive, he would have beaten them to death. Lu Yin listened for a while, looked at the young man, and then walked towards the princess' residence. The guard of the residence was Kaze, who had been transferred over when Lu Yin had disappeared. With his strength, he didn't have to come, but he had still ended up standing in front of the residence. Chapter 2155. Kaze's status in the Great Yu Empire was extremely high. He had once been Lu Yin's gatekeeper, and now he was Wendy Yushan's gatekeeper. As long as he did not allow anyone to enter, no one would dare to force their way in. Lu Yin walked step by step to the front of the residence. Kaze was about to reprimand Lu Yin, but when he saw Lu Yin, his eyes widened and he excitedly bowed. Your Highness, you've returned. Lu Yin had not expected Kaze to remain in the Great Yu Empire. He had assumed that the man had either returned to the dire barbarian clan or gone out to explore the universe. With Kaze's strength, he would be able to establish himself in the universe. You're not bad. Kaze respectfully replied, Thank you for your praise, Your Highness. Lu Yin patted Kaze's shoulder and then stepped into the residence. Outside the residence, the elder who had reprimanded Pierre stared at Lu Yin in a daze. Was that the royal regent? A group of courtiers stood there in a daze. The royal regent had actually been beside them? Pierre had gone limp. It was over. The royal regent had found out about him. It was over. Lu Yin entered the residence and a maid came forward to lead the way. Soon he arrived at a large drill ground, where Wendy Yushan stood with her sword in hand and quietly looked at him. The residence has been expanded? This drill ground didn't exist before. Lu Yin was curious. Wendy Yushan suddenly attacked, instantly unleashing countless swords that then merged into one. Her sword pierced through the void and headed straight for Lu Yin. Lu Yin raised his hand, and just as the sword was about to pierce him, he caught it with 2 fingers. The gap between Wendy Yushan and Lu Yin was just too great. She had progressed from a cruiser to a peak hunter in the past 20 years. Which was already quite impressive. The astral source universe had been devoured over the past 20 years, and she had been unable to replenish her star energy. She had relied on absorbing star essence to reach her current cultivation, which was quite terrifying. However, this gap was not something that time could make up for. Even if she was given another 20 years, 200 years or even more, she would not be able to catch up to Lu Yin. Compared to the 10 arbiters, Wendy Yushan was still lacking by quite a bit. The 10 arbiters could break through to the Enlighter realm before the age of 40, but Wendy Yushan had already passed 40 years of age after 20 years. Not bad. Lu Yin's fingertips tightened and the sword's blade twisted. Wendy Yushan's gaze turned cold as she attacked again. This time her attack was no different from the previous one. Lu Yin raised an eyebrow. Their power was similar, but they still had to use their swords, so there had to be something different. Lu Yin watched as the tip of the sword descended once more, coming closer and closer. Nothing seemed to have changed, and Lu Yin was still holding it between his fingers. Suddenly, the tip of the sword disappeared, and it stabbed towards him from a different direction. Lu Yin was shocked. He had clearly caught the edge of the sword, and with Wendy Yushan's strength, she should not have been able to pull it out. This was the power of time. Zhou Xian flicked his index finger, and with a bang, a shockwave rippled through the air, distorting the void. The sword was knocked out of Zhou Xian's hand by the immense force, flying through the void before finally stabbing into the ground with a soft groan. Wendy Yushan looked at her empty hands. The difference between us is too great. Even time can't make up for it. He looked at her in surprise. Did you just use the power of time? Wendy Yushan nodded. How is it? Lu Yin sighed. I can only say that it's truly worthy of the power of time. That sword was caught off guard. But it still wasn't a threat to you. Wendy Yushan smiled. Lu Yin shook his head. Some differences can't be made up for by innate talent. The difference between us is too great, but with that move, you'll definitely be able to catch up to the 10 arbiters if you continue cultivating. In fact, you might even catch up to them in the future. Are you saying that I'm a late bloomer? Wendy Yushan asked. Lu Yin did not know what to say. It was strange to say that a cultivator with an innate gift of time was a late bloomer. Anyone who could control the power of time was an absolute genius, but that was the current situation. Wendy Yushan had not even caught up to the 10 arbiters, and she had even been overtaken by Shiqi. If she wanted to reach the peak among her peers, she would have to waste time. However, as time went on, Wendy Yushan's strength would only become more terrifying. Perhaps one day she would be able to catch up to Chu Yuan. No one could underestimate the power of time. It was a pity that her innate gift of time had been developed too slowly. 20 years ago she had only been able to use it for healing. Otherwise she might have been even more powerful now. Chu Yuan grasped the power of time. What's the difference between fighting him and fighting me? Wendy Yushan and Lu Yin sat across from each other. Even though they had been separated for 20 years, there was no barrier between them. To Wendy Yushan, Lu Yin was her only family. As for the Yu family, they were strangers. To Lu Yin, however, those 20 years had not been a blank slate. It had not been long since he had last seen Wendy Yushan, and it had been when he had brought some people from the Great Yu Empire to Earth to seek refuge. They had also met once during the sect's opening ceremony, when they had ascended the stairway to heaven. Lu Yin looked at Wendy Yushan. Her appearance had not changed, but she had become more mature and less fierce. Her natural beauty and delicate fragrance were still very familiar. Chu Yuan is adept at erasing a period of time. No matter what you do during that period, it will no longer exist. Thus, as long as he attacks, he will definitely hit his target. The only thing you can do is defend from start to finish, making it so that he cannot break through your defense. What you did just now was reverse time, which caused your own attack to return without affecting anyone else, allowing you to attack again. Wendy Yushan fell into deep thought. Erasing a period of time? It's hard to say which of the two is better. Chu Yuan will definitely hit his target, but if the target's defense is too strong, he can't do anything about it. For example, his power of time is useless against me. In this case, your method is more effective, as you can change the direction of your attack and its form in a timely manner. It's the same as using the same method to deal with a myriad of changes. But if the difference is too great, your method will be useless. Wendy Yushan looked at Lu Yin. He has a secret technique. Is it very strong? Lu Yin nodded, and his expression became more serious. The time realm can cause time to stop in an area. In other words, it slows down the flow of time, allowing one's attacks to stack and ultimately unleash a destructive power that is several times or even dozens of times greater than one's previous attacks. It also erases time the moment he attacks, making up for his lack of attack power. Aside from me, no one else in the same generation can withstand this technique. The time realm, huh? Wendy Yushan muttered to herself. Lu Yin said, I'll think of a way to obtain this technique, but it won't be easy. Wendy Yushan replied, there's no need. This might not be a secret technique. What do you mean? Lu Yin didn't understand. Wendy Yushan answered seriously, I don't know the principles behind a secret technique, but I understand time. This so-called time realm can be done, and it doesn't necessarily require a secret technique. However, it's very, very difficult. Perhaps this is a shortcut that the primogenitor gave to Chu Yuan, allowing him to make up for his shortcomings. Wendy Yushan looked at Lu Yin. Why are you suddenly looking for me? Lu Yin smiled. I haven't seen you in 20 years. Of course I'd come to see you. Wendy Yushan retracted her gaze. There's no need. If you have something to do, go do it. I don't have anything to do here. What about Pierre? Lu Yin asked. Wendy Yushan was confused. Pierre? Lu Yin was puzzled. It seems like you don't know about this. Pierre, Garope's son, is working with a large group of courtiers to force you to marry his son, Pai Exen. Don't you know about this? Wendy Yushan shook her head. Leave such a small matter to the Lu Ministry of Staff. I don't know about it. Lu Yin laughed. That Pai Exen was worried for nothing. They thought that they had forced Wendy Yushan and had done a lot, But in reality Wendy Yushan didn't even know about this. This was the difference between their levels. No matter how much they did, they wouldn't be able to touch Wendy Yushan. In Wendy Yushan's eyes, they were all clowns that she didn't need to pay attention to. That Pierre had even resigned. If he knew the truth, he would probably die from anger. Interesting. After a moment of silence, Wendy Yushan seemed to be lost in her thoughts. Lu Yin spoke up. Have there been any news of your father in the past 20 years? Wendy Yushan was stunned and looked at him. You still think he's alive? Lu Yin replied, I used to think so, but now I feel like he really did die. You asked me for a drop of blood to find him, didn't you? Wendy Yushan asked. Lu Yin didn't hide anything. He had asked Wendy Yushan for a drop of blood and asked the Starsabil sect to divine the undying Yushan. There were some things that Wendy Yushan knew, but she just didn't say it. Does this mean that my father is dead? Wendy Yushan asked calmly. Lu Yin sighed. I'm sorry. Wendy Yushan laughed. There's nothing to be sorry about. I always thought that he was dead. So many years have passed, so there's nothing to be sad about. It's my fault for constantly bringing this up. All right, just don't mention it in the future, Wendy Yushan said. Lu Yin sighed. This matter was over and no one would ever mention undying Yushan again. Is it difficult to cultivate the power of time? Wendy Yushan nodded. Wendy Yushan nodded. He was a little distressed. Time is hard to grasp and there's no practical way to cultivate it. It's just a feeling that exists in the unseen world and can be controlled. It's not something that can be used however you want. Lu Yin took out the progenitor's sword. This is the sword that brought us back to the past and present, even to the era of the Above Heaven sect. Unfortunately, even though I have it, I don't know how to use it. Wendy Yushan looked at the progenitor's sword. I seem to be able to see the power of time. She reached out to touch the sword, but Lu Yin quickly stopped her. Even a half-ancestor will disappear if they touch it. Wang Xi died to this sword. Wendy Yushan asked. Many people in the universe had seen Wang Xi's death, and that was Lu Yin's true display of power. He had killed a half-ancestor in front of everyone. Lu Yin put the sword away. It wasn't just Wang Xi. The god of Forgotten Ruins' half-ancestor clone also died to this sword. They all touched it. He then remembered that the god of Forgotten Ruins was Wang Miao Miao, and the half-ancestors who had died to this sword were all from the Wang family. This sword was the Wang family's nemesis. If possible, Lu Yin was willing to give the progenitor's sword to Wendy Yushan for research. Perhaps she would be able to discover something, but he didn't dare to take the risk. He was afraid that she would disappear as well. Thank you. Tanyanjuli brother, I'll give you a tip. The wedding photoshoot is in a few days, so I'll be very busy and won't have time to write. I'll work hard to save up for the next few days. I'll add more after the photoshoot.